The house is quiet. The world outside has surrendered to the stillness of the deep night. But inside, in the space behind your eyes, a storm is raging. You are lying in bed, your body still, yet your mind is a frantic chase of thoughts and fears. You look at the clock, its faint glow illuminating the dark room. 3 in the morning. This hour has become a familiar, unwelcome companion. This isn't merely a lack of sleep, it is a nightly battle, a silent war, waged against shadows from the past and phantoms of the future. The peace of the present moment is consumed, chewed away by the persistent gnawing of anxiety. This experience, this feeling of being trapped in a cycle of worry, is not a personal failure. It is not a flaw in your character. It is, in many ways, a shared sickness of our time. We inhabit a world that never truly rests, a world that constantly demands our attention, our energy, our focus, until there is nothing left to give. Our minds, much like the glowing screens we carry with us, are never allowed to fully power down. They become overloaded, perpetually processing, which leads us into a state of chronic anxiety, of profound spiritual and emotional burnout. And so sleep, the one place that should be our sanctuary, our ultimate refuge from the noise, instead becomes another battlefield, a place where our anxieties become louder in the silence. But what if there was another way? What if, instead of fighting the darkness, we could learn to befriend it? What if we could transform the very act of sleeping into a profound healing therapy? Imagine, for a moment, that you could learn to turn the long, restless hours of the night into a deep, 3-hour meditation, a session of profound rest that heals the mind even as the body sleeps. This is not a magical trick or a promise of a quick fix. It is a skill, one that can be learned and cultivated. It is the timeless wisdom of Zen, the gentle and profound teachings of those who have understood the mind for centuries, now adapted for the unique pressures of our modern lives. This is an invitation, a path that shows you how to turn your nightly rest not into a battle, but into a healing retreat, a homecoming to the peace that already exists within you. To truly begin this journey, we must first have the courage to look directly at the problem, to diagnose the nature of our unquiet minds without judgment, but with a clear and compassionate understanding. We must see the landscape of our own inner world for what it is. The anxiety that visits you in the dead of night is not born from nothing. It is the culmination, the fever pitch, of a state of being that we are encouraged to cultivate every single day. We live in the age of the productivity trap. From the moment we wake, our value is often measured by our output, by our efficiency, by our ability to do more, be more, and achieve more. Our minds are trained to be constantly active, perpetually engaged. We check emails before our feet touch the floor. We listen to podcasts while we commute, absorbing more information. We multitask through our work days, juggling demands and deadlines. We scroll through endless feeds in our moments of rest, saturating our consciousness with the lives, opinions, and anxieties of others. We are told that to be still is to be lazy, to be disconnected is to fall behind. This relentless pressure creates an internal environment of perpetual, low-grade urgency. Our nervous systems are constantly humming, simmering in a state of alert, always ready for the next task, the next notification, the next problem to solve. We have trained our minds to never be at rest, and so we are surprised when they refuse to rest when we finally lay our heads on the pillow. This constant state of mental activity has a name in Buddhist philosophy. It is called the monkey mind. The image is a powerful one. Picture a monkey in a tree, agitated and restless, never staying on one branch for more than a few moments. It swings from a branch of memory, a thought about something you said yesterday, then leaps to a branch of future planning, a worry about a meeting next week. It jumps to a branch of pure fantasy, then to a branch of self-criticism, then to a branch of desire for something you don't have. It is chaotic, reactive, and utterly exhausting. This is the state of the untrained mind. It is not your fault that your mind behaves this way. It is simply its nature when left unchecked, especially when it is constantly stimulated and rewarded for this very behavior by the world we live in. The problem is that while this monkey mind might serve us in short bursts of problem solving, it is a terrible master when we seek peace. It doesn't know how to stop because it has never been taught how. It continues its frantic dance long into the night, filling the silence with its noise, pulling you down a rabbit hole of one anxious thought breeding another, and another, and another. Over time, this pattern of thinking ceases to be just a reaction and becomes something deeper, a habit. Anxiety becomes the default setting of the mind. Just as a river carves a channel in the earth over many years, our recurring anxious thoughts carve deep neurological pathways in our brain. The more we worry, the easier it becomes to worry. The brain becomes efficient at generating anxiety. A small, insignificant triggerer, vaguely worded email, a strange noise in the house can suddenly unleash a torrent of catastrophic thinking. This is because the well-worn path of anxiety is the easiest route for your mental energy to take. It becomes a conditioned response. You are no longer just reacting to a stressful situation. You are living in a state of anxiety. And it is crucial here to understand the difference between stress and anxiety. Stress is a direct response to a present threat or a tangible pressure. The deadline is tomorrow. You feel stress. You are stuck in traffic. You feel stress. Stress is the body's and mind's way of rising to a challenge. It can even be helpful, but anxiety is different. Anxiety is stress that has forgotten its cause. It is a free-floating fear, a sense of unease that lingers long after the stressful event has passed, or one that attaches itself to imagined events in the future. Stress says, I have to deal with this problem now. Anxiety says, what if another problem comes? What if I can't handle it? What if everything goes wrong? It is the what if that fuels the unquiet mind. It is a state of being, an atmosphere you carry with you, and it is this state that makes peace, and especially peaceful sleep, feel so impossible. There is an old story that illustrates this condition perfectly. It tells of a man who became terrified of his own shadow and his own footprints. He thought they were malevolent spirits chasing him. To escape them, he began to run. But the faster he ran, the faster his shadow and his footprints followed. He believed his only solution was to run faster and faster, to never stop. He ran until he was utterly exhausted, his heart pounding, his lungs burning, and finally, he collapsed and died. He did not understand that if he had simply stepped into the shade of a large tree, his shadow would have vanished. And if he had just sat down and remained still, there would have been no more footprints. The man's predicament is our own. We try to outrun our anxiety. We distract ourselves with more work, more entertainment, more noise. We believe that if we just keep moving, keep achieving, keep busy, we can escape the disquiet within. But like the man's shadow, our anxiety is a part of us. The very act of running from it is what gives it its power and its relentless presence. The struggle is what exhausts us. The solution, the real path to peace, is not to run faster, but to do the one thing that feels most counterintuitive. It is to stop. It is to find the shade of the tree. It is to sit down and be still and allow the frantic energy to settle. Understanding this, truly understanding this diagnosis, is the first and most critical step. You are not broken. Your mind is not your enemy. It is simply untrained, caught in a powerful habit, and overwhelmed by the demands of a world that glorifies busyness over being. You have been trying to outrun your own shadow, and now we will learn how to stop. We will learn to find the shade of the tree. To do this, we do not need to fight the mind, to wrestle it into submission. We need a gentler approach. We need an anchor, something simple, something real, something that can hold our attention and guide us out of the storm of our thoughts and back into the calm of the present moment. That anchor is not something you need to acquire or build or buy. You already possess it. It has been with you every second of your life. It is your own breath. We have acknowledged the storm of the unquiet mind, the frantic dance of the monkey mind that steals our peace. Now, we begin the gentle work of calming that storm. But we will not do it with force. We will not try to shout down the noise or wrestle our thoughts into submission. That is the path of struggle, the path of the man running from his own shadow. Instead, we will introduce a point of stability. We will find an anchor. In the midst of a turbulent ocean, a sailor does not try to calm the waves. A sailor lowers an anchor, securing the ship so it can ride out the storm. For our minds, that anchor is the breath. It may seem impossibly simple, almost too simple to be effective against the immense power of our anxiety, but its simplicity is precisely where its profound strength lies. Think about it. Your thoughts are always about the past or the future. They are memories, regrets, and what-ifs about what has already happened. Or they are plans, worries, and projections about what is yet to come. Your mind is almost never in the present moment. But your breath is always and only now. It cannot breathe in the past. It cannot exhale in the future. Each inhalation, each exhalation is an event that is happening in this exact, fleeting moment. By placing your attention on your breath, you are gently but firmly pulling your awareness out of the chaotic timelines of your thoughts and grounding it in the solid reality of the present. The practice of cultivating this awareness is known in the Buddhist tradition as anapanasati, which simply means mindfulness of breathing. There is no need for mystical beliefs or complex visualizations. It is the most direct and honest practice imaginable. Let us explore this right now, not as an intellectual concept, but as a felt experience. As you are listening, you can begin. You do not need to change your breath in any way. You do not need to make it deeper, or slower, or more spiritual. Your body has been breathing perfectly your entire life without your help. The task is simply to notice it, to become aware of the physical sensations of breathing. You might feel the air as it enters your nostrils. Perhaps it feels slightly cooler on the way in. You might notice the gentle rise of your abdomen or your chest as you inhale, and the subtle fall as you exhale. That is all. The instruction is to rest your attention on these simple, physical sensations. When your mind wanders, and it will wander, that is what minds do. The practice is not to get frustrated or to criticize yourself. The moment you realize you have been lost in thought, you have already succeeded. That moment of recognition is a moment of mindfulness, and in that moment, you simply and gently guide your attention back to the sensation of the breath, in and out, rising and falling. You may have to do this 100 times in 5 minutes. That is perfectly fine. The practice is not about achieving a perfectly silent mind. The practice is the gentle, patient act of returning. Each time you guide your awareness back to the breath, you are strengthening a mental muscle. You are weakening the old habitual pathways of anxiety and carving a new, gentle pathway of present moment awareness. You are teaching your monkey mind, with kindness, that it is safe to rest on this one branch for a while. You are showing it that it does not need to constantly leap and grasp for things to be okay. The breath becomes a refuge, a safe harbor you can return to at any moment, especially when you are lying in bed and the waves of worry begin to crash. Instead of being swept away by them, you can choose to lower the anchor. You can feel the breath. One inhalation, one exhalation. You are here. You are safe. You are in the present moment. There is a profound intelligence to this practice that goes beyond philosophy. It speaks directly to the language of your own body, to your nervous system. When you are caught in a cycle of anxiety, your body is in a state of fight or flight. Your sympathetic nervous system is activated. Your heart rate increases. Your muscles tense. Your breathing becomes shallow. You are physically preparing for a threat, even if that threat is only a thought. By consciously placing your attention on the slow, rhythmic sensation of your breath, you are sending a powerful signal back to your brain. You are telling your body that there is no immediate danger. This simple act of focused awareness activates the parasympathetic nervous system, often called the rest and digest system. It is the body's natural braking mechanism. Your heart rate begins to slow. Your blood pressure lowers. Your muscles can begin to release their tension. You are, quite literally, calming your body from the inside out, and the mind invariably follows. This is why the breath is often called the bridge. It is the physical link between the intangible world of the mind and the tangible world of the body. You cannot simply command your mind to be calm, but you can guide your body towards calmness through the breath. And in doing so, you create the conditions in which the mind can settle all on its own. The Buddha understood this intimate connection. When he was teaching his own son, a young boy named Rahula, he did not begin with complex doctrines or abstract philosophies. He began with the breath. He taught Rahula to be aware. When breathing in a long breath, he knows, I am breathing in a long breath. When breathing out a long breath, he knows, I am breathing out a long breath. He then compared this skill to that of a master carpenter or a carpenter's apprentice. A skilled craftsman, when making a long cut with his saw, knows he is making a long cut. When making a short cut, he knows he is making a short cut. He is simply aware of what is happening as it is happening. There is no judgment, no frustration that the cut isn't happening faster, no worry about the next cut. There is only a clear, calm, and precise attention on the task at hand. Our practice with the breath is the same. We are not trying to force anything. We are simply becoming skilled artisans of awareness, observing the natural rhythm of our own life force, moment by moment. So, as you prepare for this journey into a more restful sleep, know that you now have your first and most faithful tool. It is the anchor of the breath. It is the bridge between mind and body. It is the simple, honest presence of your own life unfolding. You do not need to master it overnight. You only need to begin. You begin by feeling one breath and then another. You are planting a seed of stillness in the often turbulent soil of your mind. Now that we have this anchor, this point of stability for the mind, we can turn our compassionate attention to the place where so much of our daily anxiety is stored, the place that often aches and holds tension without us even realizing it. We can begin to explore the landscape of the body itself. Having found our anchor in the gentle, rhythmic tide of the breath, we can now begin to explore the territory where our anxiety so often resides, not just as a thought, but as a physical reality. Our bodies are the unconscious keepers of our life story, the silent witnesses to every stress, every worry, every moment of fear. Anxiety is not merely an abstract concept floating in your mind. It is a physical event. It lives in the tightness of your shoulders, the clenching of your jaw, the subtle knot in your stomach. It is the shallow breath you don't notice, the restless energy in your legs as you try to lie still. Throughout the day, as we navigate our challenges, we accumulate this tension. We armor ourselves against the world, and this armor is built from tightened muscles and constricted energy. When we finally go to bed, we may try to calm our thoughts, but we often forget to invite our bodies to release the armor they have been carrying all day. A tense body sends a constant, low-level signal of alarm back to the brain, telling it that it is not yet safe to rest. To find truly deep and healing sleep, we must learn to consciously and kindly release this physical tension. The practice for this is beautifully simple and profoundly effective. It is called the body scan meditation. It is not an exercise in forcing relaxation, but rather an exploration, a gentle mapping of your own inner territory with the light of your awareness. As you lie in bed, preparing for sleep, you can begin this practice. Let your body be still, finding a comfortable position, and allow your eyes to gently close. For a few moments, simply bring your awareness back to your breath, the anchor, feeling the gentle rise and fall of your abdomen. Then, with your next out-breath, allow your attention to travel down, all the way down through your body, to your feet. Let your awareness settle on your toes. You do not need to visualize them. Just feel them. Can you feel the sensation of your right big toe? What about the other toes? Are they warm or cool? Can you feel a sense of tingling, or perhaps no sensation at all? Whatever you find is perfectly fine. There is no right or wrong answer. You are simply noticing. You are bringing a kind, curious attention to a part of your body you may not have thought about all day. Now, gently, allow your awareness to expand, to include the soles of your feet. Notice the points of contact with the bed, the slight pressure, the texture of the fabric. Let your awareness fill your heels and the tops of your feet. Simply feel whatever is there to be felt. And as you breathe out, imagine a wave of softness washing over your feet, giving them permission to let go, to release any holding. Then, slowly, guide your awareness upward, into your ankles, your lower legs, your shins, and your calves. What do you feel here? Is there tightness in your calf muscles from a long day of standing or sitting? If so, the practice is not to command the muscle to relax. The practice is simply to notice the tightness, to acknowledge it without judgment. Ah, there is tightness here. This act of pure, non-judgmental observation is itself a powerful form of release. By seeing the tension clearly, without fighting it, you are already beginning to dissolve it. You are meeting your body with acceptance, not with resistance. Continue this gentle journey upward. Bring your awareness into your knees and then into your large thigh muscles. These are powerful muscles that work hard for you all day. Feel their weight, their density. Allow them to be heavy, to sink softly into the surface beneath you. With each out-breath, offer them a sense of release. Now, bring your attention to your pelvic area, your hips, and your buttocks. This is an area where we often hold a great deal of deep-seated tension, connected to our sense of stability and security. Simply allow your awareness to rest here, with kindness. Notice the solid feeling of your hips connecting with the bed, a point of grounding. Let go of any clenching you might find. Then, move your attention to your lower back, a common storage place for stress. Patiently, kindly, feel the sensations here. Is there an ache, a stiffness, a warmth? Just notice. Breathe into the sensation, not to force it away, but as if to surround it with space and gentle care. Travel up your spine, vertebra by vertebra, bringing your awareness to your mid-back and your upper back. Feel the expanse of your shoulder blades, and then move into your abdomen. Gently rest your attention on your belly, feeling its soft, rhythmic rise and fall with each breath. This is the center of your body. Let it be soft. We so often hold our stomachs tight, bracing ourselves. In this safe space, you can let that bracing go. Allow your awareness to move up into your chest, the area of your heart and lungs. Feel the gentle, steady beat of your heart, a rhythm that has accompanied you your entire life. Feel the expansion of your ribs as you breathe in, and the gentle release as you breathe out. Allow this entire area to soften. Now, let your awareness flow down your arms. Feel your shoulders, letting them release away from your ears. Follow the sensation down through your upper arms, your elbows, your forearms, and into your hands. Your hands are incredible instruments of doing, of holding, of controlling. For now, their work is done. Feel your palms. Are they open and soft? Can you feel the energy in your fingertips? You might notice a tingling or a warmth. Simply let your hands be at rest, holding nothing. Then, guide your awareness upward again, through your throat and your neck. Release any tightness you find here. And finally, bring your attention to your face, the place where you show so much of yourself to the world. Let your jaw be slack, allowing a slight space between your upper and lower teeth. Soften the small muscles around your mouth. Let your cheeks be soft. Soften the area around your eyes, letting your eyeballs rest gently in their sockets. Release the forehead, letting it become smooth and wide. And finally, bring your awareness to the very top of your head. For a few moments, be aware of your entire body, from the tips of your toes to the crown of your head, breathing as one unified whole. You have now visited every part of your physical self with kindness and attention. This practice can be compared to walking through your own house at the end of a long day. You are not going into each room to criticize it or to frantically clean it. You are simply walking through, room by room, turning off the lights, closing the curtains, and gently wishing each space a good night. You have walked through the room of your feet, the room of your legs, the room of your heart. You have brought a quiet, loving presence to your entire home. By doing this, you have sent the most powerful message of safety and peace to your nervous system. You have fully inhabited your body, not as a problem to be solved, but as a home to be cared for. This practice of scanning the body creates the perfect foundation for deep rest. We have used the breath to anchor the mind, and we have used the body scan to soothe the body. The mind is more stable. The body is more relaxed. We have created a space of inner quiet. Now, into this quiet and receptive space, we can begin to cultivate a quality that is the most powerful antidote to the harsh, critical voice of anxiety. We can learn to actively generate a feeling of warmth, of friendliness towards ourselves and the world. We can begin to fill our inner home, now quiet and calm, with the gentle light of compassion. We have anchored the mind with the breath, and we have brought a soothing awareness to the body, allowing it to soften and release. We have created a space of relative calm, but into this quiet space, a familiar voice may still arise. It is the voice of the inner critic, the relentless judge that so often accompanies anxiety. This voice is the narrator of our fears. It tells us we are not good enough, that we have made too many mistakes, that we are destined to fail. It is a harsh, cold, and unforgiving voice. Trying to fight this voice with logic or to silence it with force is often fruitless. It thrives on conflict. The true antidote to this inner harshness is not more hardness, but its complete opposite. It is warmth. It is gentleness. It is an active and intentional cultivation of kindness. In the Buddhist tradition, this practice is called metta, which translates as loving kindness. It is a systematic practice for softening the heart and changing our fundamental relationship with ourselves and with the world. The practice of metta, most radically, begins with ourselves. For many of us, this is the most difficult step. We find it far easier to wish well for others than to offer the same grace to ourselves. We are conditioned to see our own flaws with a magnifying glass, while viewing others with more generosity. But we cannot give to others what we do not possess ourselves. You cannot pour from an empty vessel. To try and offer kindness to the world without first being kind to yourself is to operate from a place of deficit, and it is not sustainable. So, as you lie there, in the quiet space you have created, the practice is to turn this gentle gaze inward. You can bring to mind an image of yourself, perhaps as a young, innocent child, or you can simply hold an awareness of your own presence, your own being, lying here. And then, you silently, gently, offer a few simple phrases from the heart. The traditional phrases are a beautiful starting point. You can repeat them slowly, letting them resonate in your mind. May I be safe. May I be protected from inner and outer harm. May I be happy. May I feel a sense of ease and well-being. May I be healthy. May my body and mind be strong and at peace. May I live with ease. May I move through the world with grace and without struggle. As you repeat these phrases, do not worry if you don't feel a sudden rush of emotion. That is not the point. The point is the intention. You are planting seeds. You are offering these wishes as a gift to yourself, a gift you surely deserve. If the inner critic arises with objections, telling you that you don't deserve this kindness, simply notice that voice as more thought, more noise, and then, gently, return to the phrases, return to the offering. May I be safe. May I be happy. You are replacing the old, harsh, inner monologue with a new, kind one. You are, perhaps, for the first time, consciously choosing to be your own friend. Rest with this for a while, allowing the intention of kindness to permeate your being. Once you have established a sense of warmth for yourself, you can begin to expand the circle of loving kindness. The next step is to bring to mind someone for whom you have easy, uncomplicated feelings of affection. This could be a beloved family member, a dear friend, a cherished pet, or a respected teacher. Picture this person or being in your mind's eye. See them happy and smiling. Hold that warm feeling you have for them in your heart, and then extend the same phrases to them. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you live with ease. Feel the genuine wish for their well-being flowing from you to them. There is no agenda here, no expectation of receiving anything in return. It is a pure, unconditional gift of goodwill. Notice how it feels in your own body to generate this warmth. This feeling is the direct antidote to the cold grip of fear and resentment. After spending some time with this loved one, you can stretch your capacity for kindness further. Now, bring to mind a neutral person. This is someone you see in your daily life but have no strong feelings about one way or the other. It could be the cashier at the grocery store, the mail carrier, a colleague you don't know well. We so often walk through the world, seeing people as objects or roles, not as complex beings with their own hopes and fears. In this practice, you see them as a full human being, just like you, and you offer them the same wishes. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you live with ease. In doing this, you are breaking down the artificial barriers between me and them. You are recognizing a shared humanity. This person, just like you, wishes to be happy and to be free from suffering. By extending kindness to them, you are softening the edges of your own world, making it a friendlier, more connected place. Now comes the most transformative, and sometimes the most challenging, step. The practice invites you to bring to mind a difficult person, someone who has hurt you, or with whom you have conflict. The purpose here is not to condone their harmful actions or to force a false sense of forgiveness. The purpose is entirely for your own liberation. Holding on to anger, resentment, and hatred is like holding onto a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned. The bitterness poisons your own heart and mind, tethering you to the past and fueling your anxiety. This practice is about putting down that hot coal. It is about freeing yourself. So, if you feel ready, you can bring this person to mind, and with whatever small measure of willingness you can muster, you offer them the phrases. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you live with ease. If this feels impossible, you can modify the wish. May you be free from the anger and ignorance that causes you to bring suffering to others. May you find peace. The point is to recognize that their actions come from their own suffering, their own confusion. By wishing them well, you are untying the energetic knot that binds you to them. You are choosing your own peace over the righteousness of your anger. This is an act of profound courage and self-compassion. Finally, you can allow the circle of loving kindness to expand infinitely outwards. Picture the feeling of warmth and light in your heart and let it radiate out in all directions. To all people, in your building, in your city, in your country, to all beings on the planet, human and non-human, friends and enemies, those who are happy and those who are suffering. You can repeat the phrases, for all beings everywhere. May all beings be safe. May all beings be happy. May all beings be healthy. May all beings live with ease. This practice transforms the heart. It is the perfect medicine for the anxious mind, because anxiety is a state of contraction, of closing down in fear. Metta is a practice of expansion, of opening up with love. It is not a passive, sentimental emotion. It is a strength. It is a declaration of intent. There is a powerful story from the life of the Buddha that illustrates this strength. A rival, Devadatta, full of jealousy, attempted to assassinate the Buddha by releasing a notoriously wild and furious elephant named Nalagiri to charge at him in a narrow street. As the massive, intoxicated elephant thundered towards him, the Buddha's followers panicked and fled. But the Buddha stood his ground. He did not prepare to fight. He did not run. Instead, he radiated an immense, powerful wave of unconditional loving kindness towards the enraged animal. The elephant, upon feeling this profound energy of pure goodwill, an energy it had never encountered before, began to slow down. Its rage subsided. It approached the Buddha, knelt down before him, and was completely tamed. The Buddha subdued the greatest physical threat, not with force, but with the unshakable power of a kind heart. This is the power we are cultivating within ourselves. When the raging elephants of our own anxiety, our own self-doubt, and our own anger charge at us in the narrow streets of our minds, we learn not to fight them head-on. We learn to meet them with the gentle, unshakable strength of metta. We soften, we open, we tame them with kindness. With a heart that has been made softer and more resilient through this practice, we are now far better equipped to look at one of the deepest roots of our anxiety, the very mechanism that keeps the monkey mind in motion. We can now turn our gentle gaze towards our own tendency to grasp, to cling, to hold on too tightly to a world that is constantly changing. We are ready to explore the art of letting go. With hearts made softer through the practice of loving kindness, we have cultivated a gentle inner environment. This gentleness is essential for our next step, for now we must turn our attention to one of the most subtle and powerful engines of our anxiety, the habit of clinging, of grasping, of attachment. In the language of the Buddha, this is called upadana. It is the mental glue that binds us to our ideas, our expectations, and our desires, and in doing so, becomes the very source of our suffering. When you look deeply into the anatomy of your anxiety, you will almost always find an attachment at its core. You are anxious about an upcoming presentation because you are attached to the outcome of success and praise. You are anxious about a relationship because you are attached to a specific vision of how it should unfold. You are anxious about your health because you are attached to the idea of a life without illness or pain. It is this clinging to a fixed, desired outcome that creates the fertile ground for fear. The world is in constant flux, and when we attach ourselves to a static idea, we are setting ourselves up for a constant battle with reality itself. It is vital here to make a distinction between a healthy desire and a clinging attachment. There is nothing wrong with wanting to be healthy, or wanting to succeed in your work, or wanting to have loving relationships. These are natural, wholesome aspirations. They provide direction and motivation in our lives. The problem arises not from the desire itself, but from the clinging that so often follows. Desire is the gentle wish. I would like to be healthy. Attachment is the fearful, desperate demand. I must not get sick. And the thought of illness is a constant source of terror. Desire says, I hope this relationship works out. Attachment says, I cannot live without this person, and I must control the situation to prevent them from leaving. Do you feel the difference? Desire is light, open, and flexible. Attachment is heavy, rigid, and brittle. It is full of fear. This fearful grasping is the true source of our disquiet. We create a mental blueprint of how life is supposed to be, and then we live in a state of chronic anxiety, constantly guarding this fragile blueprint against the unpredictable nature of life. We are like someone trying to hold water in a clenched fist. The tighter we squeeze, the more it slips through our fingers, and the more frantic our efforts become. The path to peace, then, involves learning the gentle art of letting go. In the Buddhist tradition, this is sometimes spoken of as nekkhamma, a word often translated as renunciation. This translation can be misleading. It can conjure images of a stark, joyless life, of giving up everything we hold dear. But this is a misunderstanding of its true meaning. True renunciation is not about giving up the good things in life. It is about wisely and joyfully giving up the things that cause us to suffer. It is renouncing the poison of clinging, not the wholesome pleasure of life itself. You don't renounce the beautiful flower. You renounce the desperate need to possess it, the fear that it will wilt, and the suffering you experience when it inevitably does. You learn to appreciate its beauty in the present moment, without the burden of attachment. You are letting go, not of your joy, but of the anxiety that surrounds your joy. It is an act of profound liberation. It is putting down the heavy bags you have been carrying so that you can walk freely and lightly through the world. So how do we practice this? How do we learn to unclench our mental fist? We can begin by changing our relationship with our own thoughts, especially the ones that arise as we lie in bed. The practice is to observe them without becoming entangled in them. Imagine you are sitting on the bank of a river. The thoughts that flow through your mind are like leaves floating on the current. Some are beautiful, some are ugly, some are plain. Your habitual tendency is to jump into the river and grab onto a particularly interesting or frightening leaf, and then get swept away downstream. You grab a leaf of worry about finances, and suddenly you are lost in a torrent of catastrophic scenarios. The practice of letting go is simply to remain on the riverbank. You see the leaf of worry float by. You acknowledge it. Ah, there is a thought about money. And then you let it continue on its way. You do not follow it. You do not try to push it away. You simply allow it to pass. Another powerful image is to see your mind as a vast, open sky. Your thoughts and feelings are like clouds that drift across it. Some days the sky is full of dark, stormy clouds of anxiety. Some days it is clear. Some days there are just a few fluffy, white clouds of pleasant memories. The sky, your essential awareness, is never harmed by the clouds. It does not cling to the beautiful clouds or fight against the storm clouds. It simply allows them to be there, to arise, and to pass away in their own time. This is the attitude we cultivate. When a thought of anxiety appears in the mind, we see it as just another cloud. We don't have to believe it. We don't have to identify with it. We don't have to become the storm. We can remain as the sky, spacious and accepting, watching the weather of our mind change. This practice creates a space between you and your thoughts, and in that space lies freedom and peace. There is a classic Zen story that beautifully illustrates this principle. Two monks, an older one and a younger one, were on a long journey. They came to a river where a young woman was waiting, afraid to cross because the current was strong and her clothes were fine. Without a word, the older monk hoisted the woman onto his shoulders, carried her across the river, and set her down on the other side. She thanked him, and the monks continued their journey. Hours passed. The younger monk was sullen and quiet, his brow furrowed. Finally, unable to contain himself any longer, he burst out, "Brother, how could you do that? We are monks. We are forbidden to touch a woman, let alone carry one in that manner. It was a serious breach of our vows." The older monk looked at him, his expression calm and gentle. He replied, "Brother, I set that woman down by the river hours ago. Why are you still carrying her?" This story perfectly captures the nature of our attachments. The older monk performed a simple, compassionate act and then let it go completely. The event was over. The younger monk, however, clung to the event in his mind. He was attached to his rigid interpretation of the rules, attached to his judgment of the older monk's actions. He was carrying the woman in his mind long after she was gone, and this mental burden was destroying his peace. How many times a day do we do this? We carry the argument from this morning, the mistake from last week, the worry about tomorrow. We are weighed down by mental events that are no longer happening. The practice of letting go is the practice of learning to set down the woman by the river. It is the practice of recognizing when an event is over and allowing our minds to return to the freshness of the present moment. To truly master this art of letting go, to find the courage to unclench our fist, it helps to understand the fundamental nature of the things we are clinging to so desperately. Why is our attachment to a specific outcome ultimately a source of suffering? Because the universe does not abide by our fixed plans. The very fabric of existence is woven with a thread that makes all clinging futile. This leads us directly to one of the most profound and liberating insights of Buddhist philosophy. To let go, we must first understand the nature of change itself. We must look deeply into the truth of impermanence. We have learned to soften the heart with kindness and to gently loosen the grip of our attachments. Now, we arrive at the very bedrock of this wisdom, the foundational truth that makes the art of letting go not just a good idea, but the only sane response to the nature of reality. This is the truth of impermanence, or anicca. To many, the idea that everything changes can sound like a sad or even a nihilistic philosophy. It can bring to mind loss, decay, and death. But seen with clear eyes, the law of impermanence is not a curse. It is the ultimate liberation. It is the key that unlocks the prison of our anxiety. Your anxiety, at its very root, is a form of protest against this fundamental law. It is a war against change. You are anxious because you are trying to hold on to something that is, by its very nature, slipping away. You cling to your youth, to a moment of happiness, to a sense of security, to a particular relationship, and you live in fear of the moment when it will change or end. Or you are in a state of pain or discomfort, and you are terrified that it will never change. In both cases, the suffering comes not from the situation itself, but from your resistance to its transient nature. You are trying to stand still in the middle of a flowing river, and the force of the current is what exhausts and frightens you. The practice, then, is to learn to flow with the river. It is to deeply, profoundly, and experientially accept that everything in your life is in a state of constant flux. The body you have today is not the body you had 7 years ago, nor the one you will have 7 years from now. The thoughts you are thinking right now are fleeting electrical and chemical impulses. The emotions that feel so solid and all-encompassing are like the weather, constantly shifting. The relationships, the job, the home, the very world around you is a dynamic, unfolding process, not a static collection of objects. When we truly begin to see this, not just as an idea but as a living reality, our perspective on our own problems begins to shift dramatically. The worry that seems so monumental in the middle of the night, when seen through the lens of impermanence, reveals itself as a temporary cloud formation. It feels huge and threatening now, but it is not a permanent feature of your sky. It will pass. This insight has a particularly potent application to the feeling of anxiety itself. When you are in the grip of intense anxiety, there is a part of your mind that believes it will last forever. It feels solid, suffocating, and permanent. This belief, this fear that the feeling will never end, is what escalates the initial anxiety into a full-blown panic. The wisdom of impermanence offers you a lifeline in these moments. You can learn to say to yourself, with gentle confidence, this feeling of anxiety is impermanent. It has arisen due to certain causes and conditions. And because it has arisen, it will, by its very nature, pass away. You are not trying to force it away. You are not fighting it. You are simply recognizing its true nature. It is a wave in the ocean of your consciousness. A big, powerful, and frightening wave perhaps, but still just a wave. It will crest, and it will break, and it will recede back into the ocean. By remembering this, you stop adding the second layer of panic, the fear of the fear itself. You can learn to ride the wave, knowing it will not last forever. This creates a profound sense of inner space and resilience. Before you sleep, you can engage in a gentle contemplation of impermanence. You can reflect on your day. The pleasant conversation you had this morning is now just a memory. The frustrating moment in traffic is over. The meal you ate is gone. All of it has passed. By reviewing the day in this way, you reinforce the understanding that experience is a flow. You can also contemplate the impermanence of the world around you. The great mountains are slowly eroding. The stars in the sky are being born and are dying. Your own life, in the grand sweep of time, is like a brief, beautiful flash of lightning. This is not meant to be morbid. It is meant to instill a sense of perspective. The problems that keep you awake, when placed against this vast backdrop of change, often shrink in their perceived importance. They lose their sharp, terrifying edges. Paradoxically, this understanding also allows us to love our lives more deeply. If this moment of peace is impermanent, we learn to cherish it fully. If our loved ones are impermanent, we learn to treat them with more kindness and attention. Right now, the awareness of change does not devalue life. It makes every precious, fleeting moment infinitely more valuable. The most poignant teaching on this subject is found in the story of a woman named Kisa Gotami. She lived during the time of the Buddha and was married with a young son whom she adored above all else. One day, the child fell ill and died. Kisa Gotami was consumed by a grief so powerful that it drove her mad. She refused to accept that her son was gone. She picked up his small, lifeless body and wandered from house to house, desperately begging for a medicine that could bring him back. Some people mocked her, others pitied her, but no one could help. Finally, a wise man saw her profound suffering and told her, "I cannot give you medicine for your son, but I know a physician who can. Go to the Buddha." Kisa Gotami ran to the Buddha, laid her son at his feet, and explained her story. The Buddha looked at her with immense compassion and said, "There is only one thing that can help you. Go into the village and bring me back a single mustard seed. But it must be taken from a house where no one has ever lost a child, a spouse, a parent, or a friend, filled with a desperate hope." Kisa Gotami went from door to door. At the first house, she asked for the mustard seed. The family was happy to give it to her, but when she asked if anyone in their home had ever died, they replied, "Oh yes, the living are few, but the dead are many." She went to the next house, and the next, and the next. She received the same answer everywhere. In every home, there was a story of loss. A father, a mother, a sister, a husband. As the day wore on, and the sun began to set, the truth began to dawn on her, not as an idea, but as a profound, shattering realization. There was no house untouched by death. Loss was not her unique curse. It was the shared, universal condition of all life. Her personal, frantic grief began to dissolve into a vast, compassionate sorrow for all humanity. She understood. She took her son's body to the charnel ground, and as she laid him to rest, she said to herself, "This is not a law for my son alone. It is the law for all the world." She then returned to the Buddha, not for the mustard seed, but with a heart broken open to the truth. She had found the medicine, not for her son, but for herself, the profound acceptance of impermanence. This story teaches us that our greatest suffering comes from our refusal to accept the fundamental laws of existence. We fight against change, and we lose every time. Kisa Gotami's healing began the moment she stopped fighting and accepted the truth. Embracing impermanence allows us to grieve, to feel sorrow, but to do so without the added layer of desperate resistance that turns sorrow into unbearable suffering. We have now seen that it is futile to cling to external things, to people, or to situations, because they are all in a state of constant change. This understanding is a great relief, but it naturally leads to an even deeper, more personal question. What about the one who is doing the clinging? What about this solid-seeming I at the center of all my experiences? If everything I see and touch and feel is impermanent, what about the seer, the toucher, the feeler? We must now turn the lens of inquiry inward. to investigate the nature of the self to which we are most deeply attached. We have walked the path of impermanence, seeing with clarity that everything we can perceive in the world is in a constant state of flux. This insight brings a great sense of peace, as it shows us the futility of clinging to that which is always changing. But now we must turn this powerful lens of inquiry inward, towards the one thing we hold most dear, the one thing that feels utterly solid and permanent. We must investigate the nature of the self. Who is this I that feels anxious? Who is this I that is trying to get a good night's sleep? Who is this I that we spend our entire lives trying to protect, promote, and defend? We are attached to our bodies, our possessions, and our relationships, but our deepest and most tenacious attachment is to our own sense of being a separate, continuous, and solid self. And it is this very attachment that sits at the epicenter of our deepest anxieties. Consider the language of your worry. I am going to fail this presentation. What will people think of me? I can't handle this feeling. My future is uncertain. Notice that the self, the I, or me, is always the central character, the vulnerable protagonist in every anxious story. This perceived self is a project we are constantly managing. We build it up with achievements and opinions. We defend it fiercely against criticism, and we polish it to present a pleasing image to the world. It is an exhausting, lifelong effort. This project of maintaining the self is what makes us so exquisitely vulnerable. Because if there is a solid self to protect, then there is also the constant threat of that self being diminished, embarrassed, or harmed. The fear of failure becomes a threat to the self's identity. The judgment of others becomes a verdict on the self's worth. The uncertainties of life become a direct danger to the self's survival. It is this constant, vigilant protection of a fragile identity that generates so much of our inner turmoil. The wisdom of the Buddha offers a radical and deeply liberating perspective on this. It invites us to look for this self that we are so busy protecting. Where is it? What is it? When we look closely, using our own direct experience as our guide, we discover something astonishing. This solid, continuous self cannot actually be found. Instead, what we call the self is more like a dynamic process, a temporary gathering of different elements. This is the teaching of anatta, or no, self. It does not mean that you do not exist. It means you do not exist as a separate, permanent, independent entity. Let's investigate this together. The teachings break down our experience into 5 categories, or aggregates. First, there is form, the physical body. Is your body the real you? Your body is in a constant state of change. Cells are dying and being replaced. It is aging. It gets sick and it gets well. It is composed of non-you elements: the water you drank, the food you ate, the air you are breathing. If your body is constantly changing, how can it be a permanent, unchanging self? Second, there are feelings. Pleasant feelings, painful feelings, and neutral feelings. These arise and pass away from moment to moment. A compliment makes a pleasant feeling arise. A stubbed toe makes a painful feeling arise. Are you your feelings? If so, which one? The happy one from this morning, or the sad one from this afternoon? They are too fleeting, too unreliable to be a solid self. Third, there are perceptions. This is the faculty of your mind that recognizes and labels things. This is a tree. This is a nice sound. This is a threatening situation. Your perceptions are conditioned by your past experiences, your culture, and your mood. Two people can perceive the exact same event in completely different ways. Are you your perceptions? They are too subjective, too dependent on conditions to be the real you. Fourth, there are mental formations. This is a broad category that includes all of our habits, biases, opinions, beliefs, and intentions. All of our thoughts and stories. I am a kind person. I am not good at math. These are simply conditioned patterns of thought, many of them adopted unconsciously from our family and society. They change over time. You don't have the same opinions you had as a teenager. Are you your mental formations? They are just learned habits of mind. Finally, there is consciousness. This is the raw faculty of awareness itself, the knowing quality that allows you to see, hear, taste, touch, and think. But consciousness is not independent. It is always conscious of something. Visual consciousness arises when the eye meets a form. Auditory consciousness arises when the ear meets a sound. Mental consciousness arises when the mind meets a thought. It is utterly dependent on the other aggregates. It is not a standalone thing. So where is the self? When we look, we don't find a CEO sitting in a control room in our head. We don't find a permanent, unchanging essence. What we find is a beautiful, dynamic, interconnected process. The self is not a noun, it is a verb. It is a constant stream of thinking, feeling, sensing, and perceiving. To believe this process is a solid me is the fundamental illusion that causes our suffering. The Taoist philosopher Zhuangzi told a story that perfectly captures the practical freedom of this insight. Imagine you are rowing a boat across a river. Suddenly, another boat comes out of the fog and crashes into yours. If there is someone in that other boat, you will most likely get angry. You will shout. You will curse them for being so careless. Your heart will race, and you will be filled with righteous indignation. But, Zhuangzi asks, what if the other boat is empty? What if it simply broke loose from its moorings and drifted into you? Would you get angry? Of course not. You would simply maneuver around it and continue on your way. The event is the same. Your boat was struck, but your emotional reaction is entirely different. Why? Because in the first case, you perceived a self in the other boat, an intentional agent to blame. In the second case, you perceived no self, and so the anger had no target. It could not arise. This is the freedom of anatta. We learn to see that the thoughts and feelings that crash into us are like that empty boat. An anxious thought drifts into the mind. Our habit is to see a self behind it, to believe, I am anxious, and then we get angry at ourselves, or we become afraid. But what if we could see that thought as an empty boat, a conditioned, impersonal event simply drifting through the vast space of our awareness? It has no pilot. It is not personal. It is just weather. When we see this, the thought loses its power to create a storm within us. We can simply notice it and let it drift by. This realization is not an annihilation. It is a profound unburdening. You are finally free from the exhausting, impossible project of maintaining a perfect, permanent self. You are free to make mistakes without it defining your entire being. You are free from the tyranny of other people's opinions, because what they are judging is just a fleeting collection of processes, not some essential you. You can finally relax. You can let your shoulders drop, unclench your jaw, and rest in the simple, flowing, mysterious process of being alive, without the heavy burden of being a somebody. After we have looked deeply at the illusion of the solid self, we are left with this flowing river of experience. But what is this river made of? What is the nature of the mind, the consciousness, in which all of this, the thoughts, the feelings, the very illusion of self arises and passes away? We must now turn our attention to the great, luminous space of the mind itself. We have journeyed inward, looking for the self, and finding only a flowing, interconnected process. We have seen that our attachments, our impermanence, and even our own identity are not as solid as they seem. This can leave us with a profound question. What then is this awareness in which all of this experience unfolds? What is the nature of the mind itself? Our everyday experience can lead us to believe that the mind is inherently chaotic, a monkey mind that is fundamentally wild and unruly. We see it as a problem to be solved, a wild horse to be broken. But this is a misunderstanding. It is like looking at a stormy ocean and believing that the nature of water is turmoil. The wisdom traditions offer a radically different view. They teach that the fundamental nature of the mind, your consciousness itself, is not chaotic. Its true nature is clear, calm, and luminous, like a wide-open sky. This metaphor of the sky is perhaps the most important one to hold. Imagine a vast, brilliant blue sky, stretching from horizon to horizon. This sky is your basic awareness, your primordial consciousness. It is spacious, open, and untouched. Now, across this sky, clouds drift. Some are white and puffy, like pleasant thoughts or happy memories. Others are dark and heavy, like storm clouds of anger, grief, or anxiety. The clouds come and they go. They change shape, they merge, they dissipate. But through it all, what happens to the sky itself? Nothing. The sky is not stained by the dark clouds, nor is it improved by the white clouds. It is not harmed by the storm, nor does it cling to the beautiful sunset. It simply allows the weather of experience to pass through it. The great mistake we make, the source of our suffering, is that we forget we are the sky. We believe we are the clouds. When a dark cloud of anxiety appears, we contract around it and say, "I am anxious." We become the storm. The entire practice of meditation, in this context, is to shift our identification from the fleeting clouds back to the vast, unchanging sky of our own awareness. You are not the anxiety. You are the space in which the anxiety is appearing. You are the sky that is holding the cloud. This realization changes everything. It means that peace is not something you need to create or achieve. It is your fundamental nature, temporarily obscured. To understand how our experiences, especially our anxieties, seem to become so solid, we can look to another profound concept, the idea of the storehouse consciousness, or alaya, vijnana. Imagine that deep within your mind there is a vast, fertile garden, or a storehouse. Every single action you perform, every word you speak, and every thought you think plants a tiny seed, a bija, in this storehouse. These seeds are not forgotten. They lie dormant in the soil of your subconscious mind. Wholesome actions of kindness and generosity plant wholesome seeds. Unwholesome actions driven by anger or greed plant unwholesome seeds. The anxious, repetitive thoughts you entertain throughout the day are not just fleeting events. They are seeds, being planted over and over again in this deep inner garden. This storehouse is not just a passive repository. It is the very source of your world. The seeds that are watered, either consciously or unconsciously, will eventually sprout and manifest as your thoughts, your moods, your perceptions, and your reality. Now, consider the profound implication of this for sleep. What is sleep? In this model, sleep is the time when the conscious, thinking mind gets out of the way, and the deep, subconscious mind, the storehouse, is left to its own devices. It is the time when the garden is watered. If you have spent your day planting seeds of stress, frustration, and worry, then what will grow in your garden overnight? More stress, more frustration, more worry. You will likely dream anxious dreams, and you will wake up with a mind that already feels tired and agitated because the unwholesome seeds have been sprouting all night long. This is why the practices we have been exploring are so crucial. The pre-sleep ritual is not just about relaxing. It is a conscious and intentional act of gardening. When you practice mindfulness of the breath, you are planting seeds of calm and presence. When you do the body scan, you are planting seeds of physical ease and self-awareness. When you practice loving kindness, you are planting the most powerful seeds of all, seeds of compassion, safety, and goodwill. You are, in effect, choosing which seeds you will water just before you hand the garden over to the night. You are creating the causes and conditions for a truly healing and transformative rest. The 3-hour Zen session is not a conscious activity. It is the result of this careful preparation. It is the quiet, subconscious process of your mind nourishing these wholesome seeds, allowing peace and clarity to grow in the darkness while you rest. There is a beautiful story that speaks to this inherent purity of the mind. It is said that in a land long ago, a monastery was built over a spot where a massive, priceless gemstone was buried deep in the earth. For generations, the monks lived and walked on that ground, completely unaware of the treasure beneath their feet. They lived simple, sometimes difficult lives, believing they were poor. They knew only the dirt, the mud, and the stones of the surface. Their condition is our own. Our mind, in its essential nature, is this priceless, luminous gem. It is inherently clear, wise, and peaceful. But through our conditioning, through the planting of unwholesome seeds for many years, it has become caked in layers of mud. The mud is our greed, our anger, our ignorance, and our anxiety. We become so identified with the mud that we forget the gem is even there. We believe that we are the mud. The spiritual path, the practice of meditation, is not a process of trying to create a new gem. You cannot create what is already perfect. The practice is simply the patient, gentle, and persistent work of washing away the mud. Each mindful breath, each moment of loving kindness, each act of letting go is like pouring a little clear water over the gemstone. Slowly, layer by layer, the mud dissolves, and the inherent brilliance of the mind begins to shine through once more. Therefore, peace is not a distant goal to be attained. It is a homecoming. It is the rediscovery of the luminous sky of awareness that has always been here, behind the clouds. It is the washing away of the accumulated mud to reveal the gemstone that is your birthright. Knowing this should fill you with a quiet confidence. You don't have to fight your mind. You don't have to fix a mind that is fundamentally broken, because it is not. You simply have to create the right conditions to allow its natural clarity and peacefulness to re-emerge. For this process of rediscovery to happen, for the washing away of the mud to become a part of your nightly rest, it is immensely helpful to make the transition from your busy day to the quiet of the night, a conscious and sacred act. We must learn to create a space, a ritual that signals to our body and our mind that it is now time to prepare the garden for its healing work. We have come to understand the mind not as a chaotic enemy, but as a luminous, open sky, and our anxious thoughts as mere clouds passing through. We have seen it as a deep, fertile garden, where we can consciously plant seeds of peace before we rest. This understanding is the foundation. Now, we must build upon it with practical action. It is not enough to know this. We must embody it. We must learn to create the conditions for our own peace. This is done by creating a sacred pause, a deliberate and loving ritual that marks the transition from the world of doing to the world of being. In our modern culture, this transition is almost non-existent. We work, we consume media, we scroll through our phones, we engage in stimulating conversations right up until the moment we turn off the light and expect our minds to instantly fall silent. This is like driving a car at full speed and expecting it to stop instantly without a braking distance. It is an unrealistic and unkind demand to make of our own nervous system. The mind needs a gentle glide path into sleep. It needs a decompression chamber to safely move from the high-pressure environment of daily life to the deep, healing stillness of rest. Your pre-sleep ritual is this decompression chamber. The first, and perhaps most crucial, element of this ritual is to declare a digital sunset. This means choosing a time, ideally at least 1 hour before you intend to sleep, when all screens are turned off. The phone, the tablet, the computer, the television. These devices are portals to a world of endless stimulation. The blue light they emit has been scientifically shown to interfere with the production of melatonin, the hormone that signals to your body that it is time to sleep. But the impact is far deeper than that. These screens are streams of information, opinion, conflict, and comparison. They inject the anxieties of the entire world directly into your consciousness. You are reading stressful news headlines, seeing curated images of other people's lives, or engaging in arguments in comment sections. This is the exact opposite of the calm, inward focus required for restful sleep. To declare a digital sunset is to draw a sacred boundary. It is a powerful statement that says, "For this last hour of the day, my attention belongs to me. My peace is more important than the endless noise of the world." This single act can dramatically change the quality of your inner environment. Once you have entered this quiet, screen-free space, you can introduce simple acts of care. Consider preparing a warm, non-caffeinated drink, like a chamomile or lavender tea. The act itself is a small meditation. The warmth of the mug in your hands, the fragrant steam, the gentle act of sipping. It is a gesture of kindness to your body, a signal to your nervous system that it is time to slow down and receive comfort. This is also a perfect time to engage in a practice of mental unloading. Many of us go to bed with our minds still churning, trying to solve tomorrow's problems and replaying today's conversations. A simple journal can become your most trusted confidant. Take a few minutes to write down whatever is on your mind. This is not about crafting beautiful sentences. It is about externalization. Write down your to-do list for tomorrow so you can trust it is safe on the page and not rattling around in your head. Write down your worries, giving them form in ink, which often shrinks them down to a manageable size. Write down anything you are grateful for from the day, planting seeds of appreciation in your mind's garden. By pouring the contents of your mind onto the page, you are freeing yourself from the burden of carrying them with you into your rest. After the mind has been unburdened, you can gently guide it towards a more expansive state by reading, but not just any reading. Avoid thrilling novels or complex non-fiction that will activate your analytical mind. Instead, choose a few pages from a book of wisdom. This could be poetry, philosophy, or spiritual teachings from any tradition that resonates with you. The words of the Stoics, the Tao Te Ching, the verses of Rumi, or the discourses of the Buddha. Reading just a paragraph or two of this kind of material can elevate your perspective, reminding you of deeper truths and lifting you out of the small circle of your personal anxieties. It tunes your mind to a frequency of calm, contemplation, and clarity, making it the perfect state to carry into sleep. Alongside these actions, consider the space itself. Your bedroom should be a sanctuary devoted to rest, peace, and intimacy. As much as possible, avoid bringing the activities of the day into this sacred space. If you work from home, try not to work from your bed. Avoid having stressful arguments in the bedroom. The environment itself holds energy and creates powerful psychological associations. When you consistently treat your bedroom as a haven for relaxation, the simple act of walking into the room and closing the door will begin to trigger a relaxation response in your body and mind. Keep it clean and uncluttered. Make it a place that feels genuinely peaceful to you. It is your nightly retreat center. All of these elements come together to form your ritual, but the true power of this practice lies not in its complexity, but in its consistency. There is a story of a great violinist preparing for a concert. He does not simply walk on stage and begin to play. He spends careful, focused time beforehand, patiently tuning each string of his instrument. He listens intently, making minute adjustments until each string resonates with perfect clarity. He knows that without this careful preparation, the music he produces will be discordant and unpleasant. Our mind and body are our instrument. A good night's sleep is the beautiful music we wish to create, a symphony of restoration and healing. The pre-sleep ritual is our process of tuning. Each night that we consistently practice our digital sunset, our journaling, our gentle reading, we are tuning our instrument. We are making those small, patient adjustments. Over time, the body and mind learn the signal. They begin to anticipate this period of calm, and the transition into sleep becomes smoother, more natural, and more peaceful. The ritual becomes a powerful conditioned response for deep rest. It is important to remember that the goal of this ritual is not to force the mind into a state of absolute blankness. That would be another form of struggle, another source of pressure. The mind will still produce thoughts. That is its nature. The goal of the ritual is to create the most fertile and welcoming conditions possible for peace to arise naturally. You are carefully preparing the soil, planting the wholesome seeds, and providing the gentle water. You are creating a beautiful, well-tended garden. But even in the most well-tended garden, an occasional weed will sprout. A thought of worry may still appear. The ritual does not eliminate this possibility. What it does is give you a calm, centered, and resilient state from which to deal with these uninvited guests when they arrive. And now, we must learn exactly how to greet them, not with fear or frustration, but with wisdom and skill. You have prepared your space and your mind. You have followed your ritual. You have anchored yourself in the breath, and you are settled into a state of relative calm. And then it appears, a thought, uninvited, unwelcome. It might be a worry about a task you forgot to do, a replaying of an awkward conversation, a sudden spike of fear about the future. Your immediate, habitual reaction might be to push it away, to wrestle with it, to become frustrated that your peace has been disturbed. I was feeling so calm, and now this moment of frustration, this act of resistance, is the critical point. It is here that a simple, unwelcome thought can escalate into a full-blown internal struggle that robs you of your rest. The wisdom of Zen does not teach us to build higher walls to keep these thoughts out. It teaches us to become skillful hosts, capable of greeting any guest who arrives at our door with grace, wisdom, and compassion. The goal is not a mind empty of thoughts, but a mind that is no longer a slave to them. The fundamental shift we must make is from being fused with our thoughts to being the observer of our thoughts. When you are fused with a thought, you believe it is an absolute truth. The thought "I am a failure" is not seen as a transient mental event. It is experienced as a core identity. The practice is to gently create a space between the observer, your calm, sky-like awareness, and the observed, the passing cloud of thought. We can do this with a number of skillful means. The first, and perhaps simplest, is the technique of gentle noting or labeling. When a thought or feeling arises, instead of getting swept away by its content, you simply and softly label it for what it is. If a wave of worry about work washes over you, you mentally note, worrying, or simply, thinking. If your mind starts planning the next day's schedule, you note, planning. If a memory from the past appears, remembering. Notice the gentleness of this. You are not labeling it stupid thought or bad thought. You are giving it a neutral, objective label, like a biologist identifying a species of bird. Ah, this is a worry bird. This simple act is profoundly powerful. It immediately changes your relationship to the thought. It transforms the thought from being the subjective truth of who you are into an objective event that is happening within your awareness. It is no longer I am anxious, but rather, the feeling of anxiety is present. This creates a crucial gap of awareness. In that gap, you have a choice. You can choose not to get on board the train of that thought. You can let it pull out of the station without you. You simply note its arrival, and then gently, without any fuss, you return your primary attention to the anchor of your breath. The thought may linger for a while, but because you are not feeding it with your attention and belief, it will eventually lose its energy and dissolve. A second, deeper technique, especially for powerful emotions, is the practice of kind inquiry. This approach builds upon the metta, the loving kindness that we have already cultivated. Instead of treating an emotion like anxiety as an enemy to be vanquished, you treat it as a messenger, albeit a rather loud and agitated one. You turn towards the feeling with a sense of curiosity, even friendliness. You can ask it gentle questions in your mind. Hello, anxiety. I see you are here. What are you trying to tell me? What do you think you are protecting me from? You are not expecting a literal, verbal answer. You are changing the entire dynamic from one of aversion to one of compassionate interest. Anxiety is often a distorted form of care. It is a part of you that is trying, in a clumsy way, to keep you safe from perceived threats. By asking it what it needs, you are acknowledging its underlying positive intention. Often, just being seen and acknowledged in this kind way is enough to soften the emotion's intensity. It feels heard, and it no longer needs to shout so loudly to get your attention. A third skillful means is to bring the experience out of the story world of the mind and into the direct, felt reality of the body. When a strong feeling like fear or sadness arises, ask yourself, where do I feel this in my body? And then, be truly curious. Is it a tightness in your chest, a hollow feeling in your stomach, a buzzing energy in your hands or feet, a lump in your throat? Try to investigate the raw, physical sensation, separate from the story that your mind is telling about it. What is its size, its shape, its texture? Is it hot or cold? Is it vibrating or still? Do not try to change it or get rid of it. Simply rest your awareness on the physical sensations and breathe with them. What you will often discover is that a sensation, when observed closely without resistance, is not a solid, monstrous thing. It is a collection of changing, vibrating energies. And as you watch it, with this calm, scientific curiosity, it will often begin to shift, to soften, to dissolve, all on its own. You have uncoupled the raw energy of the emotion from the mental narrative that was giving it so much fuel. The great Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh offers a beautiful analogy for this entire approach. He compares a strong, difficult emotion to a crying baby. When we hear a baby crying in the middle of the night, our first instinct might be frustration. We might want to shout, "Be quiet," or we might try to ignore it, putting a pillow over our head. But neither of these strategies works. A baby that is ignored will only cry louder. The wise and compassionate response is to go to the baby. You gently pick it up. This is the act of acknowledging your feeling, not pushing it away. You hold the baby with tenderness. This is embracing your emotion with mindfulness and non-judgment. And then you try to understand what the baby needs. Is it hungry? Is it cold? Is it scared? This is the act of kind inquiry, of listening deeply to your emotion to understand its roots. By taking care of the baby in this way, you soothe its crying. In the same way, by taking care of your anxiety with mindfulness and compassion, you soothe its turmoil. You are learning to become a loving parent to your own inner states. These skillful means noting, inquiring, and locating in the body air, not tricks to annihilate your thoughts. They are practices that transform your relationship with them. They turn your inner world from a battlefield into a laboratory of self-discovery, a nursery for self-compassion. By learning to greet these unwanted guests with wisdom, you rob them of their power. They may still knock on your door from time to time, but you are no longer terrified of who might be there. You know you have the capacity to open the door with grace. You have learned that true peace is not the absence of difficult thoughts, but the presence of a wise and compassionate heart that knows how to hold them. Now that we have cultivated this skillful ability to manage our inner world, we must turn our attention outwards. For the peace we experience at night is deeply connected to the way we conduct ourselves during the day. Our interactions with the world plant seeds in our consciousness, and no seeds are more potent than the ones sown by our own speech. We have spent much time in the quiet laboratory of our own mind, learning to skillfully work with the thoughts and feelings that arise within. This inner work is the heart of the practice, but our inner world does not exist in a vacuum. It is constantly being shaped, influenced, and created by our engagement with the world outside. The peace we cultivate in meditation can be easily shattered by a single careless word spoken during the day. The path to a quiet mind at night is paved with the mindful actions of the day, and one of the most powerful, frequent, and consequential actions we perform is the act of speaking. In the Buddhist framework, the way we use our speech is considered so important that it is a cornerstone of the path to liberation. It is called right speech, or samavaka, and it is a profound practice for cultivating a peaceful heart and, by extension, a restful sleep. For it is so often the echoes of our own words that haunt the silent hours of the night. Right speech can be understood in 4 parts, each one a practice in refraining from what is harmful and cultivating what is helpful. The first aspect is to abstain from false speech, from lying. This seems simple, yet we live in a world where small deceptions are commonplace. We tell white lies to avoid inconvenience. We exaggerate to make ourselves look better. We omit truths to protect our image. Each of these small falsehoods, seemingly harmless in the moment, plants a seed of unease in our consciousness. When you tell a lie, you create a second, false reality that you must then maintain. This requires mental energy. You have to remember the lie. You have to worry about being found out. You have to live with the subtle inner dissonance of knowing you were not true to your word. This creates a low-level, chronic anxiety. Your mind cannot be truly at rest when it is busy managing a web of deceit, no matter how small. A clear conscience is the softest pillow. The practice of speaking truthfully, of committing to honesty in your daily interactions, is a practice of radical simplification. It aligns your inner world with your outer world, There is nothing to remember, nothing to hide, nothing to fear being exposed. Your mind is free from the burden of duplicity, and this freedom is a profound form of peace. The second aspect of right speech is to abstain from divisive speech. This is the speech that sets one person against another. It is gossip, slander, and backbiting. It is speaking about someone in a way you would never speak to their face. When we engage in gossip, we may feel a temporary, perverse sense of belonging or superiority, but the aftertaste is always bitter. We have injected poison into the social fabric, creating mistrust and disharmony. This act ripples back to us. We may lie awake feeling a sense of guilt or regret for the harm we may have caused. We might worry if our words will get back to the person we spoke of. We have created conflict in the world, and that conflict inevitably takes root in our own mind. The practice, instead, is to speak in ways that bring people together, or to remain silent. It is to refuse to participate in the casual degradation of others. It is to use our words to heal, to reconcile, and to encourage harmony. A mind that fosters harmony in the world will find harmony within itself. The third aspect is to abstain from harsh speech. This includes anger, insults, yelling, cruel sarcasm, and any words intended to wound another person. When we are overcome by anger and lash out, we do immense damage, both to the person we are speaking to and to ourselves. In that moment of rage, we may feel a sense of power, but it is a fire that burns us as well. The adrenaline and cortisol that flood our system during an angry outburst can take hours to subside, leaving our nervous system agitated and on high alert, a state completely antithetical to sleep. And then comes the aftermath, the regret, the shame, the replaying of the scene in our mind. We lie in bed thinking, I shouldn't have said that. We have wounded another being, and a part of our own heart feels that wound acutely. The practice is to cultivate a gentle tongue. It is to learn to pause when anger arises, to breathe, and to speak from a place of clarity rather than reactivity. It is to learn to express our needs and our disagreements without resorting to aggression. Kindness is not weakness. It is a sign of immense inner strength and a direct path to a peaceful heart. The fourth and most subtle aspect of right speech is to abstain from idle chatter. This is the meaningless, purposeless talk that we so often use to fill empty space. It is the endless commentary on trivial matters, the constant stream of verbal noise. In our hyper-connected age, this also includes the digital chatter of endless scrolling and commenting. Our minds are like a glass of water filled with sediment. If we are constantly shaking the glass with idle chatter, the sediment never has a chance to settle. The mind remains perpetually cloudy and agitated. To find clarity and stillness, we must allow the glass to be still. This is the value of practicing noble silence. For a period before bed, as part of your nightly ritual, you can make a conscious choice to refrain from all unnecessary talk. This isn't an awkward, tense silence, but a rich, restorative one. It is a gift you give to your own nervous system. It allows the mind to settle, to process the day without adding new stimulation. It lets the sediment slowly drift to the bottom, revealing the natural clarity of the water. Often, the source of our sleeplessness is not just what we have said, but what we have left unsaid. An apology that needs to be made, a difficult truth that needs to be spoken, a conversation that we are avoiding out of fear. These open loops run in the background of our minds, like a computer program that is using up all our processing power. They create a persistent, unresolved tension. Part of the practice of right speech is having the courage to engage in the necessary conversations of our lives, to bring things to a close, to seek resolution. This is an act of profound self-care, a way of clearing the unresolved debts that weigh on our conscience. There is an old story of a man who went about his village, spreading a malicious rumor about another person. Later, filled with remorse, he went to the wise old Zen master to ask what he could do to make amends. The master listened patiently and then told him, "Go home, take a feather pillow, go to the highest hill in the village, cut the pillow open, and shake all the feathers into the wind." The man thought this was a strange penance, but he did as he was told. He then returned to the master and said, "I have done it." The master replied, "Good. Now, for the second part of your penance, go and gather every single one of those feathers and put them back in the pillow." The man was dismayed. "But master," he cried, "that is impossible. The wind has scattered them for miles. I can never get them all back." The master looked at him with kind eyes and said, "So it is with your words. Once they have left your lips, you can never fully take them back. They are scattered on the winds, and you can never know all the places they will land or all the harm they might do." This story reminds us of the incredible power and permanence of our speech. Our words create our world, and they create our inner state. By practicing right speech, by cultivating a way of speaking that is truthful, kind, harmonious, and meaningful, we are actively creating a world around us and a world within us that is peaceful. We are planting the seeds of a clear conscience. We are ensuring that when we lay our head down at night, the echoes that we hear are not ones of regret and discord, but of kindness and truth. Our words are one form of action, but our journey does not end here. We must also look at our physical actions, the things we do with our bodies and our lives, for they too leave an indelible mark on the landscape of our mind. We have explored the profound impact of our words, seeing how truthful, kind, and harmonious speech can pave the way for a quiet mind. But speech is just one form of action. Our path to inner peace must encompass all that we do, for every action we take, no matter how small, is a cause that will have an effect. This is the simple, practical law of karma. It is not a system of cosmic judgment, but an observable, natural principle. Wholesome actions, rooted in kindness and wisdom, lead to peaceful and happy states of mind. Unwholesome actions, rooted in greed, hatred, or confusion, lead to agitated and unhappy states of mind. A good night's sleep, therefore, is not a matter of luck. It is, in a very real sense, a karmic result. It is the natural inheritance of a day lived with integrity and a heart at peace with its own conduct. This is the practice of right action and right livelihood. Right action, or samma kamanta, invites us to look at our physical conduct, guiding us toward a life of harmlessness. This is traditionally framed by a set of ethical trainings, often called the 5 precepts. These are not rigid commandments handed down from on high, but voluntary, compassionate commitments we undertake for our own well-being and the well-being of others. They are a formula for a life free from remorse. The first is to refrain from taking life, which can be broadened to a commitment to non-harming. When we act with violence or cruelty, even on a small scale, we harden our own heart. We create an inner world of aggression and fear. To cultivate a gentle mind, we must practice gentle actions. This means respecting the life in all its forms, acting with kindness towards animals, and treating other people with a fundamental sense of care. A heart that has not caused harm has no reason to be haunted by violence. The second training is to refrain from taking that which is not given, to abstain from stealing. This is more than just a law against theft. It is a deep practice of contentment and trust. When our mind is consumed by a desire for what others have, we live in a state of perpetual lack and envy. The act of stealing, whether it is taking office supplies or engaging in large-scale fraud, creates a mind filled with fear of discovery and paranoia. It destroys our own integrity. By committing to honesty and being content with what we have, we cultivate a mind of peace and abundance. We trust that we have enough, and we can rest without the gnawing anxiety of ill-gotten gains. The third precept is to refrain from sexual misconduct. In a modern context, this can be understood as a commitment to act with profound respect, honesty, and care in our intimate relationships. It is about refraining from actions that cause emotional devastation to ourselves or to others through deceit, betrayal, or exploitation. Actions rooted in lust without care create immense turmoil, jealousy, heartbreak, guilt, and broken trust. These are powerful, painful emotions that can keep the mind spinning for nights on end. By committing to conduct our intimate lives with kindness, clarity, and respect for our commitments, we protect ourselves and others from this deep-seated suffering, creating a foundation of trust upon which a peaceful heart can rest. The fourth precept, refraining from false speech, we have already explored, but it is included here because lying is a physical act as well as a verbal one. And the fifth precept is to refrain from intoxicants that cloud the mind and lead to heedlessness. This is a particularly relevant training for those seeking to overcome anxiety. It is so common to turn to alcohol or other substances for a temporary escape from our worries. They may seem to offer a brief respite, a moment of numbness, but this is a false refuge. These substances disrupt the natural architecture of sleep, preventing the deep, restorative cycles our brains require. Furthermore, they do not solve our problems. They merely postpone them and often make them worse. They cloud our judgment, leading to actions and words we later regret. The practice of sobriety is a practice of clarity. It is choosing to face life with our full awareness, developing genuine resilience rather than relying on a chemical crutch. A clear mind is a calm mind. Beyond our personal actions, we must also examine our right livelihood, the way we spend the majority of our waking hours earning a living. This is a profound source of stress for many in the modern world. Ask yourself, with gentle honesty, does the work I do in the world align with my deepest values? Does it contribute to the well-being of others, or does it cause harm? Does it exploit people or the planet? To spend 40 hours a week engaged in an activity that violates your own conscience is to create a deep and painful split within your own being. You can meditate for an hour every day, but if you then go to a job that feels unethical or meaningless, you are swimming against a powerful current of inner conflict. This dissonance is a major, often unrecognized, source of chronic anxiety and depression. Finding a way to make a living that is not in conflict with your heart is one of the most powerful actions you can take for your long-term peace. This doesn't necessarily mean quitting your job tomorrow, but it can mean beginning to look for a path that feels more whole and integrated. A path where your work becomes an expression of your values, not a betrayal of them. Right action is not just about avoiding the negative. It is also about actively cultivating the positive. Throughout your day, look for small opportunities to be of service, to express kindness. Hold a door open for someone. Offer a genuine compliment. Leave a generous tip. Listen patiently to a colleague who is struggling. These small acts of generosity cost you nothing, but they are powerful seeds planted in your storehouse consciousness. They create a positive inner climate, a feeling of warmth and connection that acts as a buffer against anxiety. When you lie down at night, the memory of these small, kind actions provides a sense of quiet satisfaction and worthiness, a feeling that you have contributed to the good in the world, however modestly. There is the story of a woman named Ambapali, who was a famous and wealthy courtesan in the time of the Buddha. Her livelihood, while making her rich, was not one that led to deep peace. Upon hearing the Buddha's teachings, her heart was moved. She realized that her life of sensual pleasure and commerce was not in alignment with the path to liberation. In an act of profound transformation, she offered her beautiful mango grove, a major source of her wealth, to the Buddha and his community of monks, to be used as a place of quiet retreat. This was not just a financial donation, it was a radical realignment of her life's energy. By this single, powerful act of right action and right livelihood, she renounced a way of life that was rooted in attachment and created the conditions for a new life rooted in wisdom and peace. She discovered a joy and contentment that her former wealth could never provide. Just like Ambapali, we can choose to align our actions and our work with our deepest aspirations for peace. By living a life guided by principles of non-harming and active kindness, we build a fortress of integrity around our heart. Our actions and our conscience become one. When there is no inner conflict, no remorse, no fear of discovery, the mind has no reason to be agitated. It can settle into its natural state of rest. We have now laid out a clear path of wholesome conduct. But even on the clearest path, there are obstacles. It is essential that we learn to recognize these common pitfalls, the mental states that can ambush us and derail our best intentions. We must now turn our attention to these thieves of peace, the 5 great hindrances. We have walked the path of wholesome conduct, aligning our actions and our words with a desire for peace. We have created a life of integrity, which is the firmest ground upon which a quiet mind can stand. And yet, even with the best of intentions and the most ethical conduct, we will find that our minds still have their own habits, their own powerful currents that can pull us off course. As we settle into the quiet of our meditation or our bed, we may find ourselves ambushed by certain recurring mental states that seem to steal our peace, drain our energy, and block our access to stillness. In the Buddhist tradition, these common obstacles are known as the 5 hindrances, the nirvana. It is essential to understand that these are not personal failings. They are universal patterns of the human mind. They are like 5 notorious thieves who are known to frequent the neighborhood of the mind. By learning to recognize their faces and understand their methods, we can prevent them from breaking into our house and stealing our tranquility. The practice is not to eradicate them forever, but to become so familiar with them that when they show up, we can greet them with awareness and wisdom, robbing them of their power to disturb us. The first hindrance is sensory desire, or kamachanda. This is the mind's restless craving for pleasure through the 5 senses. It is the part of you that is never satisfied with what is present. As you try to rest, this hindrance arises as a thought. I should check my phone one last time. I wonder what's new on that streaming service. A little snack would be nice right now. It is the constant itch for more stimulation, for a more pleasant sight, sound, taste, touch, or smell. This restless seeking keeps the mind in a state of agitation, always looking outside of itself for the next small hit of pleasure. It makes the simple, quiet presence of the present moment seem boring and insufficient. The antidote to sensory desire is twofold. First, it is the practice of contentment, of appreciating the simple peace of non-seeking. It is recognizing that the pleasure from these stimulations is fleeting and ultimately unsatisfying, always leaving you wanting more. Second, it is the contemplation of the unattractive aspects of things, a practice to cool the fires of desire. For our purposes, the most powerful antidote is simply to recognize it. When the urge to seek stimulation arises, you can mentally note, this is sensory desire. By naming it, you see it for what it is, a familiar pattern, and you are less likely to be swept away by its promise of fleeting satisfaction. The second hindrance is ill will, or bhayapada. This is the energy of aversion, and it can manifest in a wide spectrum of feelings, from subtle irritation and annoyance to simmering resentment, anger, and outright hatred. As you lie in bed, it may appear as the replaying of an argument from the day, a fantasy of telling someone off, or a feeling of bitterness about a past injustice. Ill will is a hot, corrosive energy. It tightens the body, quickens the pulse, and floods the mind with poison. It makes peace utterly impossible. The antidote to ill will is one we have already cultivated: metta, or loving kindness. They are polar opposites and cannot coexist in the mind. At the same time, when you notice the presence of anger or resentment, you can consciously begin to practice metta. You can offer wishes of well-being to yourself, to soften the pain that the anger is causing you. And if you have the strength, you can even extend a sliver of compassion towards the person or situation that is the object of your ill will, recognizing that their actions likely come from their own suffering. This practice pours cooling water on the flames of anger, dissolving its power and restoring peace to the heart. The third hindrance is perhaps one of the most common when we try to be still: sloth and torpor, or thina, midda. This is not the same as simple physical tiredness, which is natural and necessary for sleep. Sloth and torpor is a heavy, dull, and foggy state of mind. It is a mental sinking, a spiritual laziness. The mind feels sluggish and unwilling to make an effort. It is like being in a dark, swampy place. There is no energy, no clarity. This hindrance is dangerous because it can feel deceptively like relaxation, but it is a state devoid of awareness. The antidote to sloth and torpor is the conscious cultivation of energy, or viriya. If you are meditating and feel this heaviness descending, you can change your posture, stand up for a few moments, or even splash some cool water on your face. You can also work with the mind itself by bringing to mind an image of bright light, or by reflecting on an inspiring teaching or a time in your life when you felt truly energetic and motivated. You are essentially rousing the mind from its slumber, reminding it of its own capacity for brightness and clarity. The fourth hindrance is restlessness and worry, or uddaka kukuka. This is the classic monkey mind that we know so well. Restlessness is the agitated, scattered state of a mind that cannot settle on one thing. It flits from thought to thought, like a bee trapped in a jar. Worry, or regret, is a specific form of this restlessness, where the mind gets stuck in a loop, obsessively chewing on a past mistake or a future problem. I shouldn't have done that. What if this terrible thing happens? This is the state that generates the most anxiety. It is the engine of insomnia. The primary antidote to this agitated state is the patient and persistent return to an object of concentration. The anchor of the breath is our greatest ally here. Each time you notice the mind has been carried away on a current of worry, you acknowledge it without judgment. Worrying, and you gently but firmly guide your awareness back to the physical sensation of the breath. You are training the mind to be still, to rest. It is like taming a wild puppy. You don't beat it into submission. You just keep gently placing it back on its training pad, over and over again, with infinite patience. The fifth and final hindrance is skeptical doubt, or vicikiccha. This is a particularly insidious hindrance because it attacks the very foundation of your practice. It is the whispering voice that says, "This is pointless. This isn't working. Maybe I'm not cut out for this. How do I know any of this is even true?" This kind of doubt is not the same as a healthy, intelligent inquiry. It is a cynical, paralyzing state of mind that leads to inaction. It keeps you spinning in circles of uncertainty, preventing you from ever committing to the path. The antidote here is to cultivate a wise trust. You can recall moments in your own practice, however fleeting, where you did experience a moment of peace or clarity, and use that as your proof. You can borrow faith from a trusted teacher or tradition, trusting that millions of people have walked this path before you and found benefit. Ultimately, the best antidote is to suspend the analysis and simply engage in the practice. You can say to yourself, "For this period of time, I will set aside my doubts and just do the work. I will follow the instructions and see for myself." By committing to action, you walk yourself right out of the swamp of indecision. These 5 hindrances are the thieves that operate in the darkness of our unawareness. The moment you turn on the light of mindfulness and recognize them, their power is diminished. The simple act of naming them, this is ill will, this is doubt, is often enough to stop them in their tracks. It prevents you from identifying with them and getting lost in their world. You see them as impersonal, universal patterns of the mind, and you can then skillfully apply the appropriate antidote. You learn to become a wise guardian of your own inner peace. Having identified these forces that pull the mind down into a state of confusion, we can now turn our attention to their opposites. Just as there are specific mental states that hinder our peace, there are also specific, wholesome states that we can actively cultivate to lift the mind up into states of profound clarity, joy, and awakening. These are the 7 factors of awakening. We have learned to become vigilant guardians of our minds, skillfully recognizing the 5 thieves of peace who seek to rob us of our rest. This awareness is a crucial defensive skill. But a truly peaceful life is not just about defending against the negative. It is about actively cultivating the positive. Just as there are mental states that hinder and obscure the mind, there are brilliant, wholesome qualities that we can nurture, qualities that lead to lasting clarity, joy, and freedom. These are known as the 7 factors of awakening, or the bojjhangas. They are the jewels of a wise heart, the very components of a liberated mind. If the 5 hindrances are the muddy water that clouds our perception, these 7 factors are the natural elements that work together to purify that water, allowing it to become perfectly clear and still. Cultivating them is how we build an inner home that is not just secure, but is also filled with light. These 7 factors are not a random list of virtues. They arise in a natural, organic sequence, each one supporting the birth of the next. The entire process begins with the quality we have come to know so well: mindfulness, or sati. Mindfulness is the spark that ignites the entire path. It is the simple, moment-to-moment awareness of what is happening as it is happening. It is remembering to be present. It is the gentle act of noticing the breath, feeling the body, and recognizing a thought as a thought. Without this foundational presence, we remain lost in the dream of our unconscious habits. Mindfulness is the master of ceremonies, the one who turns on the lights in the room, allowing us to see what is truly there. When mindfulness is consistently present, it naturally gives rise to the 2nd factor, investigation, or Dhamma Vicaya. This is not a dry intellectual analysis. but a wise and gentle curiosity about the nature of our experience. Once we are present with a feeling like anxiety, we can begin to investigate it. What is this feeling really? Where is it in the body? What are its qualities? What triggers it? What causes it to fade? This spirit of inquiry is the opposite of blind belief or fearful rejection. It is engaging with our life with the interested, open mind of a scientist or an explorer. We are no longer a passive victim of our states. We are an active investigator of their nature. This active investigation requires and generates the third factor, energy or virya. It takes effort to stay present and to look deeply. But the more we investigate, the more interesting our inner world becomes. And this interest fuels our energy. This is not a tense, striving energy, but a bright, steady, and courageous application of effort. It is the wholesome determination to stay awake to our experience. This energy is the direct antidote to the third hindrance, sloth and torpor. It cuts through the mental fog and infuses the mind with a sense of vitality and purpose. It is the strength that keeps us on the path. As we apply this steady, balanced energy to our practice, an amazing thing begins to happen. A new quality arises, one that is often unexpected. This is the fourth factor, joy or pity. This is not the ordinary happiness that depends on external circumstances. It is a deeper, non-sensual joy that springs from within. It is the joy of a mind that is becoming unburdened. It is the relief of letting go of old grievances, the lightness that comes from seeing through our anxieties. This joy can manifest as a thrilling or rapturous feeling, a sense of inner bubbling or warmth. It is a sign that the practice is bearing fruit, that the mind is finding its way back to a more natural and buoyant state. This initial, sometimes excitable energy of joy, if we do not cling to it, will naturally settle and mature into the fifth, deeply healing factor, tranquility or passaddhi. This is a profound calming of both body and mind. The buzzy energy of joy subsides into a state of serene stillness. The body feels completely at ease, free from its habitual tensions. The mind feels placid and composed. This is the state where the nervous system moves into its deepest mode of rest and repair. It is the true antidote to the fourth hindrance of restlessness and worry. In this state of tranquility, the frantic energy of the monkey mind simply has no fuel. Deep, restorative rest becomes effortlessly possible. From this foundation of deep tranquility, the mind gains a new power. This is the sixth factor, concentration or samadhi. A tranquil mind is a collected mind. It has the ability to rest its full attention on a single object, such as the breath, without wavering or being easily distracted. It is the opposite of the scattered, fragmented attention of our daily lives. This one-pointedness of mind is incredibly powerful. It gathers all the diffuse rays of our awareness and focuses them like a laser. This concentrated mind has the ability to see things with extraordinary clarity, penetrating into the deeper truths of existence. Finally, from this state of profound, unshakable concentration, the seventh and culminating factor arises, equanimity, or rupekkha. This is the pinnacle of a balanced mind. Equanimity is a state of perfect poise, of spacious and non-reactive acceptance. The mind, like a great mountain, is no longer shaken by the winds of life. It experiences pleasant things without clinging to them, and it experiences painful things without resisting them. It sees all thingsprays and blame, success and failure, pleasure and pain as simply changing weather patterns in the vast sky of awareness. It is not a cold indifference, but a warm, wise, and loving spaciousness. It is the heart's final liberation from the push and pull of hope and fear. This is the ultimate peace that lies beyond all anxiety. These 7 factors work together in a beautiful synergy. Mindfulness acts as the wise overseer. When the mind is feeling dull or sleepy, mindfulness calls upon the activating factors, investigation, energy, and joy to bring more brightness. When the mind is becoming too agitated or scattered, mindfulness calls upon the calming factors, tranquility, concentration, and equanimity to bring more stillness. In this way, the mind learns to balance itself perfectly. Cultivating these 7 factors is like building a magnificent and sturdy house. Mindfulness is the solid foundation. Investigation and energy are the strong frame and beams. Joy is the beautiful, light-filled windows. Tranquility is the secure, weather-proof walls. Concentration is the solid, protective roof. And equanimity is the vast, open space inside the house, a space of perfect shelter and peace where you can rest, safe from any storm that rages outside. We have now journeyed through the full landscape of the mind. We have identified the thieves of our peace, the 5 hindrances, and we have learned how to recognize them. And now we have been introduced to the 7 great guardians, the shining qualities of an awakened heart. We have a complete set of tools. We understand the path. We have the diagnosis and the prescription. The final piece of our puzzle is to understand how to bring all of this profound wisdom together, how to integrate these practices into the very fabric of our nightly rest, to truly realize the promise of our central theme, the deep, healing, transformative power of the 3-hour Zen session. While you sleep, we have journeyed far into the inner landscape, learning to anchor the mind, befriend the body, cultivate kindness, let go of our attachments, and understand the profound truths of our existence. We have identified the thieves of our peace and have been introduced to the shining guardians of an awakened heart. And now we arrive at the central promise of our entire exploration, the concept of the 3-hour Zen session while you sleep. It is essential to understand that this is a powerful and beautiful metaphor, not a literal instruction. You will not be consciously sitting in meditation for 3 hours while you are asleep. The beauty of this practice is that the conscious mind, the you that is trying and efforting, gets to take a complete rest. The Zen session refers to a profound, subconscious process of healing, purification, and integration that can happen during your deep sleep, but only if you create the proper conditions for it before you drift off. It is the result of all the practices we have discussed. Let us now put all the pieces together and see how this nightly transformation unfolds. Think of the process in 3 metaphorical phases, or hours. The first hour is the most important, for it is the only one that requires your conscious participation. This is the sacred work you do before you sleep. It is the intentional act of preparing the garden of your mind for the night. This phase begins with your pre-sleep ritual, your digital sunset. It is the drawing of a boundary, the turning away from the world's noise, and turning inward toward your own being. As you sip your herbal tea or write in your journal, you are beginning the process of consecrating the night. Then, as you lie in bed, you engage in the practices we have explored. You use the breath as your anchor, bringing your scattered awareness home to the present moment. You meticulously scan your body, releasing the physical armor of the day's anxieties. You actively plant seeds of loving kindness in your heart, softening the inner critic and generating a field of warmth and safety. You consciously practice letting go, allowing the day's events and tomorrow's worries to drift by like clouds. without grasping onto them. This first hour is your act of cultivation. You are the wise gardener, carefully tending the soil, removing the weeds of the 5 hindrances, and planting the precious seeds of the 7 factors of awakening. You are setting your intention for the night, not with forceful will, but with a gentle, loving preparation. The second hour represents the gentle surrender, the transition from wakefulness into the mysterious realm of sleep. Your active work is now done. The garden has been prepared. This phase is about trust and release. As drowsiness begins to descend, your task is to let go of control. You continue to rest your attention lightly on the breath, using it as the final, soft anchor that keeps the mind from drifting into anxious thought loops as it falls asleep. But the quality of your attention changes. It becomes less focused, more diffuse and relaxed. You are not trying to stay awake. You are giving yourself permission to dissolve into rest. You are, in effect, handing over the well-tended garden to the master gardener, your own deep consciousness. You are trusting that the wholesome seeds you have planted will be cared for. Your final waking thoughts are not of fear or planning, but of peace, of trust, of a gentle, open-hearted surrender. You are letting go of the shore of the conscious mind and allowing yourself to drift into the great ocean of the subconscious. This leads us to the third hour, the unseen alchemy. This is the heart of the Zen session. While your conscious mind is in a state of deep, non-dreaming sleep, the subconscious mind, the storehouse consciousness, begins its profound work. Because you entered sleep from a state of safety and calm, with the parasympathetic nervous system dominant, the brain's natural, nightly healing processes can function at their peak efficiency without the interference of stress hormones like cortisol. On a neurological level, this is when the brain consolidates memories, pruning away the unimportant and strengthening the essential. But when this is done from a state of peace, memories of difficult events from the day can be processed and integrated without their emotional charge. The sting is removed. The event is stored as a memory, but not as a trauma. On a spiritual level, this is when the wholesome seeds you planted are being watered. The seeds of calm, clarity, and compassion are germinating in the fertile darkness. The mind is not just resting, it is actively reconfiguring itself towards health. It is untangling the knots of the day. It is purifying itself of toxic residues. It is healing. This is a silent, effortless, and profound meditation. It is the grace that follows your diligent preparation. Your conscious effort in the first hour has created the space for 3 hours or more of deep, transformative, unconscious healing. The entire process is perfectly illustrated by the metaphor of the gardener. You cannot go out into your garden at midnight and force a plant to grow by pulling on its leaves. This would only harm it. Growth is a natural process that happens in its own time, according to its own laws. But what you can do, as a wise gardener, is spend the evening preparing the conditions for that growth. You can pull the weeds. You can turn the soil, making it soft and receptive. You can add rich compost, nourishing the earth. You can provide the right amount of water. Once you have done all this, your work is finished. You go inside and rest, trusting that nature will now do its part. In the quiet darkness of the night, while you sleep, the seeds absorb the water, the roots draw nutrients from the soil, and the life force of the plant awakens. You do not see this process, but you trust it is happening. Your conscious effort created the possibility for this natural, unconscious miracle. This is exactly the relationship we are cultivating with our sleep. The practices we do when we are awake are our conscious preparation of the garden. The deep sleep that follows is the miracle of nature, the silent growth, the true Zen session that we can only allow but never force. This is a profound shift in perspective. Sleep is no longer a passive state of blankness that we simply fall into, or a battlefield where we must fight our anxieties. It becomes the culminating act of our daily practice. It is an active and sacred process of healing that we consciously prepare for. Each night offers a new opportunity to practice this skill, to tend our inner garden with more care and wisdom. The fruits of this labor are not just a feeling of being well rested. The fruits are a different kind of life. When you consistently allow your mind to undergo this nightly process of purification and healing, you will inevitably begin to wake up in a different way. The morning itself is transformed. We have seen how our nightly rest can be transformed from a time of anxious struggle into a profound and silent session of healing and purification. We have learned to consciously prepare the garden of the mind, allowing the deep, natural processes of our being to restore balance while we sleep. The inevitable result of such a night is a radically different kind of morning. For most of us, the experience of waking can be a jarring and unpleasant one. We are often jolted from sleep by an alarm clock, and in that first instant of consciousness, the mind is immediately flooded with a tidal wave of anxiety. The to-do list, the worries from the day before, the dread of the challenges ahead, they all come rushing in, and our heart rate quickens before our head has even left the pillow. We begin the day already in a state of deficit, already in a posture of defense against the onslaught of our own thoughts. This is the painful echo of a night spent in turmoil. But when you have engaged in the practice of preparing for a healing rest, a new possibility emerges. The process of waking up becomes a gentle and gradual unfolding. It is less like a jarring alarm and more like the slow, soft light of dawn spreading across the landscape. You may wake naturally just before your alarm, feeling not groggy or panicked, but simply present. In these first few moments, you may notice a quietness, a sense of inner space that was not there before. The mind is not immediately clamoring with to-do lists and worries. It is calm, clear, and settled. This is the direct fruit of your nightly Zen session. The mental and emotional knots of the previous day have been untangled. The frantic energy has been soothed. The sediment in the glass of water has settled to the bottom, leaving the water of your consciousness clear. You are waking up not to a battlefield, but to a sanctuary that you carry within you. This clarity is the most precious gift of the practice. It is a quiet stability, a sense of being grounded in yourself. It's not that there are no thoughts, but the thoughts that arise lack their usual frantic, sticky quality. They appear with less urgency, and you are not immediately swept away by them. You have a moment, a pause, where you can see a thought as just a thought, rather than as an immediate command to start worrying. This inner spaciousness allows you to begin your day with intention, rather than with reaction. And to preserve this precious state, it is wise to greet the morning with a brief ritual, a gentle bookend to the sacred pause you created the night before. The most destructive thing you can do to this newfound peace is to immediately reach for your phone. To do so is to invite the chaos of the world, the emails, the news, the endless scroll of social mediato, be the very first thing that enters your carefully tended inner garden. You are, in effect, instantly muddying the clear water. Instead, grant yourself the gift of the first 5 minutes of the day, before your feet touch the floor, before you engage with the digital world. Simply lie there and reconnect with your practice. First, bring your awareness back to your breath. Feel the gentle rise and fall of your abdomen. Re-establish your anchor in the present moment. Notice the quality of your mind. Is it calm? Is it clear? Simply observe. without judgment. Second, cultivate a moment of gratitude. Feel a simple sense of appreciation for the rest you have received, for the warmth of your bed, for the simple fact of being alive, to see a new day. Gratitude is a powerful antidote to the feeling of dread. It shifts the mind from a perspective of lack and obligation to one of fullness and opportunity. Finally, set a gentle intention for your day. This is not a list of goals to achieve, but a simple, wholesome direction for your heart. It could be as simple as, today, I will be patient. Today, I will act with kindness. Today, I will remember to breathe. This simple intention becomes your guiding star, a gentle reminder you can return to throughout the day. There is a beautiful image for the mind that has rested deeply. It is like a mountain lake at dawn. After a still night, its surface is like glass, perfectly calm and clear, reflecting the vastness of the sky, the mountains, and the trees with perfect fidelity. It holds the whole world in a state of tranquil beauty. This is the mind that wakes with clarity. It is able to perceive reality clearly, without the distortions of fear and agitation. The mind that has tossed and turned in a storm of anxiety is like that same lake during a storm. The water is choppy, murky, and churned up with mud. It can reflect nothing but its own turmoil. The practice of preparing for sleep is the practice of allowing the storms to pass, so that by morning, your mind can return to its natural state of reflective stillness. This calm clarity you cultivate in the morning is not just a pleasant feeling that will quickly fade. It is the foundation for your entire day. It creates a positive momentum. When you start the day from a place of centeredness, you are far less likely to be reactive to the small stresses and frustrations that inevitably arise. A traffic jam, a critical email, a change of plans. These events are less likely to trigger a full-blown anxiety response because you are beginning from a higher baseline of peace. You have more emotional and mental resources available to you. You are more patient with your colleagues, more present with your family, more compassionate with yourself. You are able to make wiser decisions because you are not operating from a place of fear. The quality of your night's sleep has a direct and profound ripple effect on the quality of every single hour of your waking life. The unseen alchemy that took place in the darkness becomes the visible gold of a day lived with more grace, more wisdom, and more joy. But this morning, peace, as beautiful as it is, will be tested. We cannot remain in the quiet sanctuary of our bedroom forever. We must eventually rise and enter the busy, often chaotic, marketplace of the world. The world will make its demands. The phone will ring. The pressures will mount. The true challenge, and the next stage of our practice, is to learn how to carry this stillness with us. How do we protect this fragile flame of morning clarity so that it can illuminate our entire day? How do we learn to walk through the noise of the world while maintaining the quiet of the mountain lake within our own heart? We must now explore the art of integrating our practice into the fabric of our daily lives. We have woken from a night of deep, restorative rest and have greeted the new day from a place of quiet clarity. This morning peace is a precious resource, but we now face the great challenge. How do we carry this stillness with us, out of the sanctuary of our morning, and into the often chaotic and demanding world of our daily life? How do we keep the gentle flame of our awareness from being extinguished by the first strong wind of stress or frustration? The answer lies in dissolving the artificial boundary we have created between our practice time and the rest of our life. The moments you spend in formal practice, preparing for sleep or greeting the morning, are like the time an athlete spends in the gym, building strength and skill. But the game itself, the real application of that strength and skill, is played out on the field of your everyday activities. The goal is to learn to bring the same quality of mindful, compassionate attention that you cultivate on the cushion into every aspect of your life. It is about learning to be present, right here, right now, no matter what you are doing. One of the most accessible ways to begin this integration is through the practice of mindful walking. We spend so much of our lives walking, but we are almost never present for it. We walk while lost in thought, talking on the phone, or rushing to our next destination. Mindful walking turns this simple act into a profound meditation. You can practice this anywhere, as you walk from your car to your office, or simply down a hallway. The practice is to bring your full attention to the physical sensations of walking. Feel the contact of your foot as it presses against the ground. Notice the subtle shift of weight from one leg to the other. Feel the movement of your body through space. You can synchronize your breath with your steps, perhaps taking 3 steps for each in-breath and 3 steps for each out-breath. You are not trying to get anywhere. You are simply arriving, fully present, with each and every step. This practice grounds you in your body and pulls you out of the frantic chatter of the mind. It transforms a mundane transition into a moment of peace. You can bring this same quality of awareness to the act of eating. So often, we eat on autopilot, barely tasting our food, our attention absorbed by a screen or a conversation. Mindful eating is an invitation to fully experience the nourishment you are receiving. At least once a day, perhaps for the first 5 minutes of your lunch, commit to eating in silence and with full attention. Look at your food. Notice the colors, the shapes, the textures. Before you take the first bite, notice the aroma. As you chew slowly. Try to identify the different flavors. Notice the sensation of the food in your mouth. This practice not only enhances the pleasure of eating, but it also cultivates a deep sense of gratitude for the food that sustains you. It transforms one of the most routine parts of your day into a rich sensory meditation, an act of being fully alive. This mindfulness can be extended to our interactions with others, especially through the practice of deep listening. When you are in a conversation, the common habit of the mind is to only half listen to the other person, while the other half of your mind is busy formulating your response, waiting for your turn to speak. Deep listening is the practice of offering someone your full, undivided presence. You listen not just to their words, but to the feeling behind the words. You listen without judging, without interrupting, without planning your rebuttal. You simply receive what they are offering. This is one of the greatest gifts you can give another person, and it is also a powerful practice for yourself. It anchors you in the present moment and helps you to step outside the narrow confines of your own ego. To help us remember to practice throughout a busy day, we can use the concept of a bell of mindfulness. In a monastery, a bell is periodically rung to call the monks back to the present moment. When the bell sounds, everyone stops what they are doing and takes 3 conscious breaths. We can create our own bells of mindfulness from the ordinary events of our day. The ringing of your phone can be a bell. Instead of immediately answering, you can pause, take 1 conscious breath, and then answer from a place of calm. Stopping at a red light can be a bell. Instead of feeling impatient, you can use those 30 seconds as a welcome opportunity to feel your breath and relax your shoulders. The sound of a bird singing, the feeling of the wind on your skin, the chime of an incoming email, any sensory event can become your personal invitation to come back home to yourself, even for just a single breath. By sprinkling these mindful pauses throughout your day, you prevent stress from accumulating. You are continually releasing the pressure before it builds to an explosive level. A radical and powerful practice for our modern age is the cultivation of single tasking. Our culture glorifies multitasking, but in reality, the mind can only truly focus on one thing at a time. What we call multitasking is actually rapid, inefficient switching between tasks, a process that fragments our attention, drains our energy, and creates immense stress. The antidote is to do one thing at a time, but to do it with your whole being. The Zen master, Thich Nhat Hanh, famously said that when you wash the dishes, you should just wash the dishes. This means you are not simultaneously planning your evening or rehashing an argument. You are fully present with the task at hand. You feel the warmth of the water, the smoothness of the plate, the scent of the soap. You are completely absorbed in the act of washing. By giving your full attention to each task, whether it is washing the dishes, writing an email, or playing with your child, you bring a quality of excellence and peace to everything you do. You are no longer scattered and overwhelmed. You are focused, effective, and calm. When you begin to weave these simple practices into the fabric of your day, you create a virtuous cycle. The deep, restorative sleep you cultivated at night provides you with the foundational calm and patience needed to be mindful during the day. A day lived with more mindfulness, with more moments of presence and less accumulated stress, means that when evening comes, your mind is already in a much calmer state. It is easier to settle down, to let go, and to enter into another night of healing rest. The night practice nourishes the day practice, and the day practice nourishes the night practice. They become two wings of the same bird, lifting you into a new way of being. By carrying the stillness with you, you discover that peace is not something you have to retreat from the world to find. You learn to build the sanctuary within your own heart, a quiet space that you can access at any time, in any place. This internal state of calm does more than just benefit you. It naturally begins to change how you relate to the world around you, especially to the other people who are also struggling, caught in their own private storms of worry. We have brought our practice out of the quiet of the bedroom and woven it into the fabric of our daily lives, learning to carry our inner sanctuary with us wherever we go. This cultivated stillness, this internal reservoir of peace, does more than just transform our own experience. It fundamentally changes our relationship with the world, and most especially with other people. We live in a world that is saturated with anxiety. We encounter it everywhere, in the impatience of other drivers, in the stress of our colleagues, in the worries of our loved ones, and in the anger of strangers. The normal human tendency is to react to these states with more of the same. We meet anger with anger, anxiety with our own anxiety. We are like tuning forks, vibrating at the same frantic frequency as those around us. But as you cultivate your own inner peace, you begin to offer the world something different. You are no longer just another source of noise and reactivity. You can become a presence of calm in the midst of the storm. The first and most immediate effect of your own inner stability is that you become far less likely to be pulled into the drama and negativity of others. Imagine a small, dry twig. A single spark is enough to set it ablaze. This is the state of a mind that is already stressed and anxious. It is highly reactive, easily ignited by the slightest provocation. Now, imagine a deep, cool, and vast lake. You can throw a lit match into that lake, and it will simply be extinguished with a quiet hiss. It is absorbed without disturbance. As you cultivate inner peace, your mind becomes less like the dry twig and more like the deep lake. When someone directs their anger or anxiety towards you, you have the inner space to receive it, without immediately reacting. You do not have to become angry in return. You do not have to absorb their anxiety and make it your own. You can see their emotional state for what it is, their emotional state, and not as a direct and immediate threat to your own being. This non-reactivity is not a cold detachment. It is a warm, spacious strength that preserves your own peace and prevents the cycle of negativity from escalating. From this stable inner platform, you are able to offer one of the most profound and healing gifts to another human being, the gift of your full presence through deep listening. When people are upset, anxious, or angry, what they often need more than anything else is not advice, or solutions, or judgment. They need to feel truly heard. In most conversations, we are so busy preparing our own response that we fail to truly listen. We listen in order to reply, not in order to understand. Deep listening is the practice of setting aside your own agenda entirely. You offer your quiet, focused, non-judgmental attention to the other person. You listen with your whole body, making eye contact, allowing them the space to express themselves fully without interruption. You are not trying to fix their problem. You are simply providing a safe, compassionate container for their pain. Very often, the simple act of being heard by a calm and loving presence is enough to help a person find their own clarity and for their agitated nervous system to begin to settle down. Your calm becomes a form of co-regulation, a silent invitation for them to find their own. To support this compassionate stance, it is essential to cultivate a wise understanding of where another person's difficult emotions truly come from. When someone is speaking to you with anger, the ego's immediate interpretation is, "I am being attacked." This leads to defensiveness and counterattack. A more skillful and compassionate view is to look behind the anger and see the suffering, the dukkha, that is fueling it. Anger is almost always a secondary emotion, a protective mask for a deeper pain like fear, hurt, or helplessness. When you can see that the person lashing out at you is not a villain, but a suffering being who does not know how to handle their own pain, your entire perspective shifts. You can replace the thought, "This person is attacking me," with the thought, "This person is suffering." This depersonalizes the interaction. It is no longer about you. It is about them and their pain. This insight opens the door of your heart, allowing you to respond not with aggression, but with a genuine, if perhaps silent, wish for them to be free from their suffering. Ultimately, as you continue on this path, you will find that you do not need to do anything special to help others. Your very presence begins to have a subtle, positive effect on your environment. A person who is genuinely at peace within themselves radiates that peace outwards. Like a large, shady tree on a hot day, you provide a place of unconscious refuge for those around you. Your regulated nervous system, your calm demeanor, your patient way of speaking these things create an atmosphere of safety and stability. People may not even know why they feel more at ease in your presence, but they do. You become a quiet anchor in a turbulent sea, a demonstration that a different, more peaceful way of being is possible. This is not something you have to force. It is the natural fragrance of a flower that has been well tended. Of course, there will be times when you encounter direct negativity, when someone's words are intended to harm you. The Buddha provided a powerful teaching for how to handle these moments with grace and wisdom. The story is told of a man who came to the Buddha and began to insult him relentlessly. The Buddha listened patiently and silently until the man was finished. Then he asked him, "My friend, if someone offers you a gift and you do not accept it, to whom does that gift then belong?" The man, surprised by the question, replied, "Well, it would belong to the person who offered it." The Buddha nodded and said, "Exactly so. You have offered me a gift of your anger and your abuse. I do not accept it." And he calmly walked away, leaving the man stunned and holding his own unopened, toxic gift. This teaching is a profound reminder of our own agency. We have the sovereign power to choose what we take in from the world. We are not obligated to accept another person's anger, judgment, or negativity. We can politely and internally refuse the gift. This keeps our own inner space clean and clear, and it leaves the responsibility for the negativity where it belongs, with the one who generated it. By cultivating your own peace, you become a quiet force for healing in the world. You demonstrate that it is possible to respond to life's challenges not with reactivity, but with wisdom, not with fear, but with compassion. This entire journey, however, from the first moment of recognizing your own anxiety to developing the capacity to hold space for others, is not a short trip with a final destination. There is no graduation day from this practice. It is a path that we walk for a lifetime, and to walk it successfully, we must cultivate the essential qualities of patience and a deep, abiding kindness towards the journey itself. We have now mapped the entire journey, from the initial pangs of anxiety in the dark of night to the cultivation of a wise and compassionate presence in the light of day. We have assembled a rich toolkit of practices and insights. It can be easy, at this point, to see this path as a linear progression, a ladder to be climbed from a low state of anxiety to a high state of permanent peace. And with this view, a subtle and dangerous form of striving can creep in. We may begin to judge our progress, to measure our nightly experiences against an ideal, and to become discouraged when we inevitably fall short. It is therefore essential, as we near the end of our exploration, to embrace one of the most profound truths of any spiritual path. The path itself is the goal. The way you walk is the destination. There will be nights when you do everything right. You will perform your ritual, you will settle your body, you will watch your breath, and yet your mind will still be a raging storm. Anxiety will arise, strong and persistent. In these moments, the habit of the achievement-oriented mind is to feel like a failure. This isn't working, it will say. I'm no good at this. I'm back at square one. This is the voice of perfectionism, and it is one of the greatest obstacles to true peace. The practice is not about never having another anxious night. The practice is about how you relate to the anxious nights when they come. The practice is in the gentle act of beginning again. When you notice you have been lost in a storm of worry for an hour, the moment of noticing is a moment of success. It is a moment of mindfulness. And in that moment, the practice is simply to return, without judgment or self-recrimination, to the feeling of one single breath. That return, that gentle starting over, is the entire path in microcosm. It is the victory. We must let go of the idea that we are building something that, once completed, will stand forever, without maintenance. A peaceful mind is not a monument you erect. It is a garden you must tend every single day. Some days the weather will be perfect, and the garden will flourish with ease. Other days there will be droughts or storms, and tending the garden will require more patience and effort. The skill of the gardener is not measured by the absence of weeds, but by their patient and persistent willingness to pull them, day after day. So, approach each night not with the baggage of last night's failure or the expectation of repeating a past success. Approach each night as a fresh beginning. Your mind and body are different today than they were yesterday. The conditions of your life have shifted. Meet yourself where you are, right now. If your mind is calm, enjoy that calm. If your mind is agitated, then the practice for tonight is to work with agitation. The curriculum for your practice is always the present moment. Whatever it may hold, there is a powerful myth from the ancient West that speaks of Sisyphus, a king condemned by the gods to an eternity of meaningless labor. His punishment was to push a massive boulder up a steep hill, only to have it roll all the way back to the bottom just before he reached the summit. He was forced to descend and begin his task anew, forever. This can feel like a potent metaphor for our own struggle with our minds. We push the boulder of our anxiety up the hill with great effort, only to have it crash back down, forcing us to start all over again the next night. It can feel like a pointless, exhausting curse. But we can choose to look at this myth from a different perspective, a Zen perspective. The curse of Sisyphus is only a curse if he believes that the only point of the exercise is to get the rock to the top of the hill. But what if he were to let go of that goal? What if he were to shift his entire focus from the destination to the journey? What if, instead of cursing his fate, Sisyphus were to become utterly absorbed in the act of pushing the boulder? He could feel the rough texture of the stone against his palms. He could pay attention to the shifting of his muscles, the coordinated power in his legs and back. He could feel the solid ground beneath his feet with each step. He could synchronize his breath with his effort, inhaling as he prepares, exhaling as he pushes. The entire universe could shrink to this one, all-encompassing, present moment reality of rock, muscle, ground, and breath. In this state of total absorption, where is the curse? Where is the suffering? The gods condemned him to an eternity of action, but they did not condemn him to an eternity of misery. His inner state remained his own to choose. By embracing the process itself, by making the path the goal, Sisyphus could find a profound and unexpected freedom in the very heart of his eternal task. This is the freedom we are invited to discover in our own practice. The true and lasting joy is not found in some future moment of arriving at a state of perfect, unshakable peace. That is a phantom, a destination that is always on the horizon. The real joy is found in the process itself. There is a quiet, noble satisfaction in the simple discipline of showing up for yourself each night. There is a gentle warmth to be found in the very act of offering yourself loving kindness. There is a liberating thrill in the moment you recognize a thought as just a thought and let it go. We must learn to fall in love with the practice itself, not just with its promised results. When we do this, the pressure dissolves. The practice ceases to be another chore on our to-do list and becomes instead a welcome act of refuge, a coming home. It is no longer about getting somewhere else, but about learning to be fully and kindly right where we are. By embracing the journey in this way, by accepting the rhythms of our own progress, and by finding joy in the simple act of returning again and again to the present moment, we begin to embody the peace we once sought as a distant goal. This shift in perspective, from striving for a future destination to inhabiting the present moment path, leads us to the final and most profound realization of all. It leads us to discover that the peace we have been seeking was never truly lost. It was not in a different place or a different time. It is not something we need to acquire from the outside. It is the very ground of our being, the unshakable shelter that has been waiting patiently within us all along. We have walked this long and winding path together, a journey that began in the darkness of a restless night, haunted by the ghosts of anxiety. We have traveled through the landscape of the mind, learning to anchor ourselves in the breath, to befriend our bodies, to cultivate a heart of kindness, and to see through the illusions of our own attachments. We have come to understand that the path itself is the goal, that our gentle, persistent effort is its own reward. And this understanding leads us to the final, most liberating discovery of all. It leads us home. It leads us to the peace that was never somewhere else. The peace that has been waiting patiently for us, right here, in the very center of our own being. This is the discovery of the unshakable shelter within. From our earliest days, we are taught to seek our safety and happiness in the world outside ourselves. We are conditioned to believe that if we can just arrange our external circumstances perfectly, if we can secure the right job, find the perfect partner, build the beautiful home, or accumulate enough wealth, then we will finally be safe. Then we will finally be at peace. And so we spend our lives striving, grasping, and arranging, trying to build a fortress against the uncertainties of life. But as we have seen, the fundamental nature of life is change. The world is inherently unstable. Fortunes are won and lost. Relationships begin and end. Health gives way to sickness, and life itself is fleeting. To place our ultimate hope for peace in something outside of ourselves is to build our house on shifting sand. It is a recipe for perpetual anxiety, because no matter how secure our fortress seems, we are always aware that the tides of change can and will eventually wash it away. The great spiritual traditions do not teach us to abandon the world or to stop caring for our lives. They teach us to build our true home in a different place altogether. They teach us to build our refuge within. The practices we have been exploring are the very tools and materials for this construction. Each mindful breath is a foundation stone. Each moment of loving kindness is a sturdy beam. Each act of letting go is a clearing of the inner space. Each insight into impermanence and no self is a window that lets in the light of wisdom. Slowly, patiently, night after night, day after day, you are not just managing your anxiety, you are building an inner sanctuary, a place of profound stillness and resilience within your own heart and mind. This refuge is not dependent on external conditions. No one can take it away from you. The economy can collapse. Your plans can fall apart. People can praise you or blame you. But this inner shelter remains. It is a source of strength and clarity that is always available, no matter the weather outside. The Buddha once used a beautiful parable to describe this inner refuge. He spoke of a turtle who moves slowly and deliberately through the world. The turtle's life is often threatened by predators, such as a hungry jackal. When the jackal approaches, the turtle does not try to fight it or outrun it. It knows it cannot win that way. Instead, it does something remarkably simple and wise. It withdraws its forelegs and its head into the protection of its own sturdy shell. The jackal may sniff and claw and bite at the shell, but it cannot harm the turtle. Eventually, frustrated and tired, the jackal gives up and wanders away. The turtle then waits until it is safe, and once again extends its head and limbs and continues on its journey. The Buddha explained that we are like this turtle. The jackal represents all the dangers and temptations of the world that attack us through our senses. The seductive sights, the harsh words, the painful memories, the anxious thoughts, they all seek to devour our peace. Our five senses and our unguarded mind are the five vulnerable openings. The turtle's shell is our mindfulness, our inner stillness, our cultivated composure. The practice is to learn to withdraw into this inner shell when the world becomes too overwhelming. We can temporarily pull our attention away from the relentless stream of outer stimulation and rest in the safe, quiet, and protected space of our own awareness. We do not have to engage with every provocation. We do not have to react to every stimulus. We can rest in our inner refuge until the danger passes, and then re-engage with the world from a place of renewed strength and calm. To have built this inner shelter is to have discovered the meaning of true freedom. Freedom is not the power to control the world and make it conform to our every wish. That is an impossible dream. True freedom is the inner resilience to maintain our peace and our balance, regardless of the world's changing conditions. It is the ability to experience success without becoming arrogant, and failure without falling into despair. It is the capacity to feel pleasure without clinging to it, and to endure pain without being shattered by it. It is the equanimity that allows us to walk through the marketplace of life with all its noise and chaos, while carrying the quiet of the monastery in our own heart. This is the unshakable peace that the practice makes possible. With this discovery, our relationship to sleep is utterly transformed. At the beginning of our journey, sleep was seen as an escape. We were so exhausted by the anxiety of our waking life that we desperately sought the oblivion of unconsciousness, only to find that our anxiety followed us there. But now, sleep is no longer a flight from the world. It is a homecoming to our true nature. It is a deep and willing dive into the peaceful, luminous ground of being that we have come to know and trust through our practice. Rest is no longer a desperate escape from a life of struggle, but a joyful continuation of a life of peace. We lay our head on the pillow, not as a weary soldier retreating from a battle, but as a pilgrim returning to a beloved and sacred home. We are simply returning to ourselves. This is the final fruit of the path. The peace you were seeking everywhere was the very essence of who you are all along. And now, you have learned the way back home. Chắc chắn rồi. Đây là kịch bản chi tiết cho phần kết luận, được viết bằng tiếng Anh theo đúng các yêu cầu. We began our journey together in the dark, in the quiet desperation of a sleepless night, feeling trapped by the frantic energy of an unquiet mind. We looked deeply into the nature of this modern anxiety, seeing it not as a personal failure, but as a shared human condition. From that place of clear-eyed understanding, we embarked on a path inward. We learned to anchor our awareness in the simple, honest rhythm of the breath. We traveled through the inner landscape of the body, offering it a gentle, healing attention. We discovered the transformative power of loving kindness, learning to soften the harsh inner critic, and to hold ourselves with a compassion we so often reserve only for others. We gazed into the profound truths of impermanence and no-self, loosening the tight grip of attachment that is the very root of our fears. And through this patient, persistent practice, we have discovered that we do not need to seek safety in a world of constant change. We have learned to build the unshakable shelter of peace within our own heart. The core message of this entire journey is a simple one. Peace is not the absence of problems. It is not a life free from difficulty, noise, or pain. Peace is an inner skill. It is the ability to maintain your balance, your clarity, and your compassion in the very midst of life's storms. The 3-hour Zen session while you sleep is not a secret technique, but a beautiful and natural outcome. It is the fruit of a life that is lived with gentle, mindful intention. It is the rest that comes to a mind that has been cared for, a heart that has been softened, and a spirit that has learned to let go. It is the silent, healing alchemy that happens when we consciously and lovingly prepare the ground for our own rest. And so, we leave you here, at the beginning of your own continuing path. Know that you already have everything you need. The tools for your own liberation are not outside of you. They are your breath, your awareness, and the innate capacity of your own heart to love. The practice is always available in this very moment. Each breath is a new beginning. Each night is a new opportunity to come home to yourself. There is no need to strive for perfection, only to practice with gentle persistence. Be kind to yourself on this journey. Be patient. The peace you are seeking is not a distant destination you must race towards. It is the very ground beneath your feet. It is the quiet presence that is listening right now. May you walk this path with grace. May you find comfort in the silence. And may you always remember the unshakable peace that resides and has always resided within you.